Okay, what's up, y'all? Live. We are live right now. We are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Kava Club podcast. You guys already know who I am. My name is Will. I'm the host of this show. I'm very excited today. I have a very special guest. One of our Polynesians. This is all the way from Sydney, Australia. And she is a model, and she low-key famous, but she won't talk about it. But she's one of the I'm very grateful, blessed to have her today on this podcast. I'm excited to jump into her life story and for you guys to hear it. But I want to let everybody know, if you're watching this for the first time, please show some love and support. Please like and subscribe to my channel. And if everybody out there that's been watching and showing me so much love and support, I'm very grateful, very thankful for all the love and support I've been receiving, and mad love to you guys. But let's get back to this podcast. I'm ready from to guests, and I'll introduce herself real quick. So go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Aholelei. I am 23 years old, 24 in 2 weeks. I am a born and raised Tongan, but currently residing in Sydney.
All right. Yeah. Sounds good. You fired up?
Yes, I am. I'm really excited.
I'm excited. No, the reason I just did that, one of my family members reached out to me. It's like, he told me, "Hey, you say excited too much on your podcast in the beginning." I told him, because I am excited. I'm fired up. I gotta fire everybody up. Everybody watching, I gotta fire them up. I gotta fire my guests up. We gotta get ready for this podcast. So I just had to say excited. I told her I was gonna say excited 10 more times than usual, because I know she's gonna be watching one of my close family members. Yeah, I know you know who you are. So I hope you're excited. But anyways, let's get back to the podcast. But like I said, Maria, thank you. I'm very grateful for taking this opportunity, and thank you for doing this. I very appreciate it. Mad love to you. But let's get right into it. I'll ask you the very first question. How did you grow up?
How did I grow up? So I was, like I said before, I was born and raised in Tonga. So my family is from Kolomotua. So shout out to my Kolomotua fam.
Old town baby.
Yes, I'm from the OG guys.
For sure.
Yeah. So I was brought up in. It's kind of funny because I was brought up in an Italian environment as well.
Oh,
so being born and raised Tongan, I had that, that Italian vibe in me as well. I am 1 out of 10 kids. Majority of us are girls, so 7 girls and 3 boys. So I'm sorry to my brothers.
10 kids. 10 kids. That's a normal family. That's a normal Italian family.
I know, but I'm just like, sometimes I wish I had more brothers. Less drama. But oh well. But just like any other Tongan kids or anything, we are brought up by our grandparents. So I was brought up by my grandma and my granddad. During the week, or a week here and there, I'd be with my grandparents. Another week I'd be in my Italian family's environment. So if some of you guys if you guys know, or have been to Tonga, if you guys have heard of Keleti Beach Resort, we used to own that. So I was born in that in that resort. I was born there, literally no hospital for me. In the resort. But yeah, so like I said, I lived there for up until I was 13 years old. So the Italian woman that I'm named after, which is why I'm the only one in my family that's got a Palangi name. Everyone else has a Tongan name. So birth certificate, my name does say Maria. So for you guys, it's not Malia Fia Palangi to be Maria. It's actually Maria. But yeah, so she passed away back in 2007, if I can remember. So that made me move in with my grandparents. My parents were living with us as well, including my aunties and uncles and my cousins. So, so it was a household full of Tongans, Tongans. And yeah, so moving back in there, you know, the living environment as a Tongan is so different. You will literally have one massive piece of land, and then you have the main house where all the, you know, all the females like myself, my cousins, my aunties, my mom and my grandparents would be living in, and then the boys would be, as they call it, a hut, like, you know, at the
Oh man,
front part of the house.
you're giving me flashbacks right now. You know, and a lot of people, a lot of Tongans in America don't know about that hut life.
That hut life is, yeah. It's like you'd expect only your cousins and your brothers to be living there, but
I know.
somehow when you go to give food, it's like everyone in your village that's living in that hut or like or whatever. So yeah, so
I
there's
know.
the huts for the boys, and then of course if your aunties and uncles want to move in or whatever, they'll build their own little houses or whatever. So it was a very busy, fun, you know, full of life and full of, you know, being surrounded by families and your loved ones. That was, you know, that's how it was in that environment. And then when I was 11 or 10, I got to meet the people that adopted me. So I ended up being adopted by a New Zealand couple. So being adopted by them, they moved to Tonga on the basis of trying, you know, to file for the adoption and stuff. And in doing that process, my dad, he ran one of the shipping corporations there. And it was pretty tough because back then there was this massive accident that had happened with one of the ships. And I don't know if some of you guys have heard, like, I know it went worldwide and all, the Princess Ashika. So for some of you Americans that don't know, you know, Princess Ashika was a ship that was loaded with, you know, heaps of kids, like children, families, you know, men and women. And it's those are the only ways that we can get to like the outer islands that don't have airports. So you just travel by boat or by ship. It was a ship that, you know, my dad, the government had decided to try, you know, buy off another country, and my dad said no, it's not safe to do so, like, you know, it's going to need a lot of work to be done before it can, you know, ever be put out there or anything like that. And it would take years to, you know, renovate that ship. Anyway, government went through with it, decided to, you know, what the heck, we'll just do it, whatever, and ended up signing it off, saying that it was okay to be on the water. Anyway, it was the last trip back. I can't remember which island it was. It was probably Hapai or Ewa or Vava'o. I can't remember. On the way back, there was a leak in the ship. So the ship sank. Only a few men survived. Like majority of them that survived were all men. So the women and the children all passed. You know, they all sank in that ship. So that was a very touchy subject that I actually got into. But from that happening and stuff, you know, it was like a big riot and all this and that. So, you know, paparazzis were everywhere trying to get, you know, my dad's identity, and he had a wife and kids, you know, and mind you, being in the process of doing the adoption, he, you know, they were going to back out only because of that, because they didn't want to put myself and one of my other sisters who were getting adopted as well. They didn't want to put our, you know, life in jeopardy or anything like that, because they didn't know what Tongans would do, you know. And back then I was a kid. I didn't know what Tongans would do, like if they would go on a rampage or whatever, you know. I didn't know. So, you know, but it managed to die down for a bit. My sister and I, they got the adoption approved. I got my citizenship straight away, only because I was under the age of 15. So if you're over the age of 15, you're gonna have to go through another process and all. But anyway, adoption happened. Age of 13 was when I found out that I was going to be leaving my family. So I was going to, like, that's when I ended up moving to New Zealand. So that was back in 2010. out of all my families, my family members and stuff, I was closest to my grandma, my granddad, and my mom, my biological mom. My mom and I are like two peas in a pod. You would think that, your twin would be, your best friend would be your sister or your brother. No, mine was my mom. Like, my mom was my rock. My mom was my savior. She was everything. She's, she's the older version of me, if that makes sense in a way. But yeah, I went through a lot growing up as well. Like, it's not just all happy vibes and stuff. There were some moments there where I discovered that I had mental health issues. I had depression. I was going through the anxiety. There was a stage where I did go through suicidal thoughts, which did escalate into me trying to take my own life, only because I was the middle child. So being the middle child, you get, well, in my family, I got protected too much.
Yeah.
Way too much from my older siblings, especially my older brother, because I only had one older brother and the other two were younger than me. Yeah, so being protected by my older brother and by my grandparents and my mom, I never understood why they would protect me over anybody else, or why they would protect me more than anybody else. Like, I never understood it or anything up until I grew up a couple of years ago, when I found out why. But yeah, it got to a point where I think, as the middle child, I took things differently, as in I took the tough love, as they say it, like, it was tough love, as being raised as a Tongan woman and as a woman itself. We go through a lot. Like, we really go through a lot. You're obliged to, having to look after your younger siblings, getting them dressed, having to, walk them to school, and then you going to school as well, and then having to do the pickups and stuff as well, and like going home, doing chores, cooking, cleaning, and then again looking after your siblings at it, because your parents are always busy working, and they gotta make the money, they gotta provide for you, so you gotta at least help out by doing that. And that was our role. The moment you have a younger sibling, or that's it, you're a mom straight away. As a woman, as a Tongan woman, or as a woman, you're a mom straight away.
I know.
Like, you're the third, fourth mom, whatever it is. But yeah, so that was my role. When I started having younger siblings, I was like, I took on that role of looking after them. And I was complaining so much, because I was like, I don't know how you guys were doing it with me. Like, this is so hard. And my siblings were like, you were the easiest child that we had to look after. And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, like, you're the easiest. You looking after them, it's like the hardest. And we're lucky that you're the one that has to look after them, not us, But yeah, we do have a lot of responsibilities. I say that I had a lot of happy moments. Like, I have so many memorable moments that I would never forget growing up. But there were dark moments as well, like really, really dark moments that, for those of you that know me, would never think that a person like me would go through, because I always, whenever I'm around anyone or I meet new people or anything like that, I vibe with them straight away, because I can, like, my mind's just like, okay, you're gonna vibe with this person, so like, be yourself, and I always go around putting this smile, this happy girl, this I'm always this happy girl, because I don't want anyone to, I don't want people to know that I'm going through something. I don't want them to feel sorry for me, or or try and treat me like, in a sensitive way, which I don't want to be treated in a sense, like, nobody wants to, right? But you can't help it but to be happy in front of everybody, even though you're dying inside, or something's eating up inside, and you want to speak out, but you don't, because you just don't want to kill the vibe or anything like that,
Plus Tongans can be very mutulal and talk,
yes, they
and
can
gossip.
be, and we're very judgmental. And like, you say one thing, and then the whole of Tonga will know about it,
and everybody will add on
that
their own story to the
exactly
truth.
that's it. Like, it'll just get changed, and it'll turn around and be like, well, it's your fault for opening your mouth in the first place, and it's like, what did I do?
I know, exactly.
Like, I confided in someone.
Yeah. So you just like, so he's like, no,
Like
I'm
that.
not saying anything. I'm not saying anything. You don't know about
I
me.
know. Yeah. And I learned that the hard way. I confided in somebody that I thought I trusted. And that's the thing. You never know. Like growing up, you never know if the person that you put your trust in is somebody that you can truly, truly trust. You know, down the way, like, you know, they could switch up on you, like change up straight away. And you're just like, what happened to you? Like something will happen along the way and you wouldn't know about it, but that person wouldn't tell you about it. They'll just switch up and be like, okay, whatever. You know, been there, done that. You're that person. Okay, whatever. You know, but yeah, I went through a lot of struggles growing up, being bullied as well. Like I was like, I'm one of those Tongans where, you know, you go to another country and you're like so skinny, right?
Yeah.
And then you go back to Tonga and they're like, you need to eat more because you're too skinny. You're like, what are you? It's all bones, no meat type of thing, you know? And I was always that Tongan girl that never put on weight.
Yeah.
I eat the most, but I never put on weight. And like I naturally have like big eyes and naturally have, you know, big lips and long hair, but like if I brush it, it's all poofy like Mahana hair. And I got bullied for that. Yeah. I got bullied for, you know, for my facials, for who I truly was.
Yeah.
And you know, and yeah, it hurt because like, you know, I kept questioning myself, like, am I ugly? Is that why they're bullying me? Like, is that like, you know, and that's what you think, you know, and when you're younger, when somebody bullies you, you're like, oh, am I not perfect? Like, didn't God create me this way? Or did my parents do something wrong with me? Like, you know, you're questioning it all.
Yeah.
And yeah, until I moved to New Zealand, and mind you, back then I didn't, you know, when you're in Tonga, because it's such a small, you know, it's a small country, you're only surrounded by, you only see what you see there. Like, you know, I didn't know anything about lesbians and gays and stuff like that. I knew what Aholelei were. I knew that, because, you know, that's, we accept that in our country and stuff. But when I moved to New Zealand, it was so different. Like, I got bullied for being a Tongan woman, but I also got bullied for being a woman. Like being a woman. Like back in Tonga, like, you know, I didn't know, because some Tongan women, they're like, you know, they've got hairy legs and stuff, and you know, and all this and that. So like, I didn't care about any of that, because I was just like, I'm just a teenager. Like, let me be myself, you know. Yep. And then you move to a country where they see your true nature as ugly and dirty, and I was like, this is such a different world. Like, where did I go? Like, am I in the same world, or am I in a different, you know, dimension or something like that? And like, you know, also with your siblings, like you're holding hands, right? You hold hands to cross the road and this and that. And I remember my first day at the school that I was at. So when we moved to New Zealand, I moved to Nelson. So it's the top of the South Islands. And at my school, so I went to Nelson Girls College. So my school, we have the new gym, which is on the top of the hill, and then we have the old gym, which is at the bottom. So when we have certain types of sports, we go to the bottom. So on our way back up, it's a really steep hill. So on my first day, when we were walking back up to our other classes, one of these girls turned around and said, oh, here, hold my hand and I'll help you up. And I was like, okay, that's perfectly fine. Like, you know, I'm like, okay. I held her hand and she was like pulling, you know, helping me up and stuff. And mind you, having like a backpack with really heavy books, you don't want to do that. But yeah, so when I got to the top, one of my friends who was like my buddy, she came up and she's like, she was Tongan as well. She turned around and she's like, oh, you might not want to do that when you're like here at this school. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, if somebody here sees you holding hands with another girl, you're a lesbian. And I'm like, what's a lesbian? I'm questioning it all. I'm like, what is a lesbian? And then they're like, oh, it's, you know, and then they explained it. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, but I'm not though. And they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, but it doesn't matter if you say that you're not. When people see it, they judge you based on that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. So I had to like learn so many new things. I had to go about it differently. I had to go home to my adopted parents. I had to sit there and ask my dad, I'm like, Dad, what's this and what's that? Like, educate me on it. And then my dad's like, oh no, what happened? And I explained it. And my mom was like, honey. And she like, they explained the Palangi views of it. And I was like, it would have been helpful if you guys explained it to me before I came to this country or before I came, I went to school.
Yeah.
But I don't blame them for it at all, because it was something that I was going to learn eventually, regardless whether they were going to tell me or not. I would have to experience it eventually. And no, like, I'm going around it and stuff as well, like in the Palangi environment, like in New Zealand. I got bullied on the basis that I was Tongan. So I got bullied because I was Tongan, not because I was a woman or anything, but I got bullied because I was Tongan. And, they're like, oh, but aren't all Tongans like ugly and this and that? And I'm like, what? And they're like, don't all Tongans come by boat? Like, and I'm like, no, we're not refugees. Like, we do have an airport, we have planes, we can fly here if we want to or not. And they're like, yeah, but like, you guys are only just known for your men, for rugby, for that, for the for a man. Like, we were just known for like what men can do, not what women can do. And then one time I got asked, and I swear to God, like, I would have, if I had the chance to, if I was like, how I am now, I would have uppercut that person. but I was sitting there and somebody like turned around and they asked me, like, they're like, so what do women do in Tonga anyway? And I'm like, excuse me? And they're like, because, men all over the world do everything and women just sit there and do nothing. And they're like, is it how it is in Tonga? And I'm like, if anything, the women are doing everything and the Tongan men are being treated like princesses. I'm like, I don't know about any other household, but that's how my household was. Like, the men were treated like princesses. Like, they were the girls and we were the guys. And like, every time my mom would turn around and say, si TV or Manasseh, like, those are my brothers. I'm like, si TV, alo omaye, Manasseh, alo kito au aye haka and stuff. And literally, my grandma would turn around, she'd be like, Ikai, uyatu kamalia, uyatu kamevisi, uyatu kaleka. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, please go to Tonga. I'm like, if you had a Tongan parent, they would send you to Tonga for schooling and you will learn like what responsibilities are and what, like, being disciplined is. And yeah, also like the part where like, how we get smacked and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you get smacked once, you learn from that lesson, you never do it again. I had to like readjust to not being disciplined. Yeah. Like, when I did something that was wrong, I would expect to be smacked. Like that was me. I would expect to be smacked because it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're a Tongan, you will still get smacked. Whether you're 30 years old, 50 years old.
Whether you're married, doesn't matter. But if you're married, have children, you still get whooped.
Exactly. It's like you will get whooped in front of your kids by your own parents. Like, it doesn't matter. But he was me, like, I did something that from a Tongan woman who did it would think that like you'd get in trouble for it. Mm-hmm. But instead I just got the pat on the shoulder and that was it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to like, so that's when I realized that I needed to readjust myself to like Palangi ways. Yeah. But without having to throw away my, being who I am, being a Tongan woman, being a Tongan in general. And yeah, my teenage years was worse than my childhood, actually. It was up until, because like I said, I was adopted with my sister. I can't remember I think it was 2012. my sister decided to up and leave. So she up and left to one of my other sisters. So there's two sisters of mine who are in New Zealand, but I never met them until 2012.
Okay.
So my sister up and left to one of them. And when we both moved to New Zealand and we got adopted, we became two peas in a pod. So I was her sheep and she was the leader. So I was following her everywhere and anywhere because, like I said, I was so protected that I didn't have my own voice, and I didn't know what was out there or anything like that. So I was the sheep, I was the sheep in that, but not the black sheep of the family, if you know what I mean. So I was the follower. He was the leader. I was the follower. And when she up and left, it was out of the blue. It was so confusing for me. I was very, very depressed. Again, my suicidal thoughts came back in because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how I was going to go about being bullied at school because she would always protect me.
Yeah.
She would know from my facials if something went wrong. And if I didn't say anything, my friends would tell her, oh, she's being bullied and all this and that. So my sister kept getting in trouble because she was standing up for me.
Yeah.
Whereas, when she left, like I said, it was shocking for me. I didn't know what to do or anything. But what made me learn was the fact that I decided to do sports. Mm-hmm. So I decided to trial out for volleyball. And mind you, I never played volleyball or any type of sport growing up. So volleyball was my first ever sport to play. And when I went to trial, I was trialing just for fun. Like I didn't actually expect to get in or anything. But the only reason why they really put me in there was because, so I'm a left-handed person. So I write with my left hand. But when I do like any other stuff, I use my right hand. So I'm ambidextrous and I can write with my right hand if I actually try to.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Yeah, but if I just want to like do a quick little writing or whatever, I will write with my right hand and it'll be messy, but a bit tidy, but still really messy. But yeah, so one of the balls got set up to me to the back. So I was in the back and I couldn't get around the ball with my left hand to like spike it down. So I just stood there and I was just like, boom. I like spiked it. And the coach was like, you got her in the face. I was like, on this side of the net or the other side of the net? She's like, on the other side of the net. And I was like, did I score? She's like, yeah. And I was like, okay. Me just being like, okay. So, and then, from that day on, because the school that we always have a rivalry with is Waimea College. And they have that person where she can play with both hands. She can spike with both hands. And like, it's unpredictable. So like they put me in because of that. So I got, so I got put into volleyball, my first ever sport. I got put into the top team with them and stuff. We went to regionals, we went to nationals, we won silver and stuff. Of course, we can't beat that other college, but eventually we will. So me learning how to stand up for myself and how to do things on my own started from volleyball. So playing volleyball and stuff, because was it a winter sport? Yeah, a winter sport. From that, from when I realized that you only play volleyball for 2 terms, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? If I don't have a sport to play, what am I going to do? So I trialed out for netball. Got into netball, did that and stuff. And like from then on, I was like, okay, to keep this confidence going, I will have to play sports. So I just kept playing any sport that came, when the seasons changed, I changed sport and all this and that. And it got better. Like I got better and better on being confident and stuff. And then in New Zealand, this is when I found out that like you have cliques. Like, you have like, at school you have your, your islanders, and then you have your Maoris, and then you have the, the Palangis, or like, every single like form of like clique that you think of, they had that at school. So of course I was with the Maoris and the, and the islanders and stuff. So I was always surrounded by them and stuff. But progressing into it, I feel like from how I took it, was that the bigger, like, our circle was pretty small, but the more sports I played, the bigger the circle became.
Yeah.
And I was like, are people just coming into this circle, of friends only because I'm playing sports, or because one of these girls are like, no, or is it because we're all individually known for certain things that we're doing at this school? Like, is it because, so we ended up being the popular bunch of girls at school, because it was an all girls school. So we ended up being the popular group. And when you're watching movies, you would think that it's the palangis, right, that are like the popular group. And that's how we thought, because when I started, that's how it was. It was the palangi girls, the rich palangi girls that were all, that were the popular ones and stuff. But then that died down, and the islanders and the Modis became the thing at school.
Ones. That's cool.
So everyone wanted to like hang out with us. Everyone wanted to like do things with us and all this and that. But that was never me. I was never like the girly girl type. I was a tomboy. And I think playing sports brought back my tomboyness, because I was just like, I was always into sports and stuff. But that helped die down my depression, and it helped me forget the fact that my sister just left me, because I felt abandoned. I really felt abandoned. And the only connection that I really had to my family back in Tonga was my sister, because she was with me. So when she left, I felt, like I said, I felt abandoned. I felt like, I wasn't worth being with my family. Like, I started thinking like, maybe my family agreed on the adoption because they wanted to get rid of me.
Yeah.
And, and then I thought that my sister leaving me was her getaway, like her move, being adopted with me was her getaway out of like our, out of being in Tonga and out of being with our family. And then her end of her connection with me, with my family, was to leave me, whereas, so I thought all of these really bad thoughts that I shouldn't have thought of at that age. I shouldn't have thought of about my family, because I knew that, Tongans are very family orientated. And I know majority of other countries are out there, but like, I've never come across a family that's more orientated or family orientated than Polynesians are, or especially Tongans are, because I've always, every single environment that I've been in has always been around my family and stuff. So having to witness and experience other cultures with their families was different, but I was expecting them to be the way that my family was, so close-knit and so tight, like, inseparable and stuff.
Did you ever find out why your family let you get adopted? Did you ever ask?
My mom turned around and said to me, the reason why she accepted the fact that I was adopted was the fact that she wanted a better life. She wanted a better life for myself and, and my sister. She wanted at least, some of us to, because she knew that the world is big. And if we stepped out into that world, we would be able to like be more than just, being Tongan women in Tonga. We'd be more than that. Yeah, so that's so when I found out about that, I was just like, okay, it's understandable, because there was a point where I hated my family.
I can only imagine.
When I got adopted, so when I got adopted, I was like,
why me, right? Why
I
me?
hate you guys. Yeah, I was like, why did you let me go? Like, I hate you guys. You guys never loved me, that type of stuff. And like, looking back at it now, I hate myself for thinking like that.
Yeah.
Because instead of thinking positively, I thought negatively.
Because
like, instead of thinking like,
well, so you can't blame. Sorry? You're young. You're very young, so you don't. You can't really.
Yeah, exactly, true. But yeah, like looking back at it now, I'm just like, you're such an idiot. Why did you think like that? Your family just meant the best for you. They wanted the best for you and stuff. And you know what? If it wasn't for that, for their decision to actually allow me and my sister to be adopted, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be, sitting here talking to you, speaking about my journey, about my life and stuff. I wouldn't be doing things that you know, I never actually thought that I could do. You know, I've done so much that, you know, back then as a Tonga, you know, if I was in Tonga, I wouldn't be able to do any of this. You know, I would probably still be out there, like, you know, like those young Tongan girls are still doing, like, you know, sakiki takai holo in town, like, you know, looking for a boy or whatever like that. Yeah, I would be doing that. But
so shout out to your mom. Shout out to your mom for doing that.
Yeah, shout out to my mom. I love you. Thank you so much for this. But yeah, it's life changing. But yeah, New Zealand was a whole lot of big stories, and that's when I found out as well the true reason why I was being protected my whole entire life.
Okay.
So my parents that adopted me, right? They knew me when my mom was still pregnant with me. But I didn't get, like I said, I didn't get to meet them until I was like 10 or 11. But a couple of years back, so back in 2018 was when I found out about it. I found out that, you know, and it was bad timing as well. I was grateful and I was thankful that, you know, that my parents that adopted me opened up to me about it. I was thankful and grateful for that, but I was upset at the fact that it happened at the wrong time. So I was doing the biggest thing. So I had, in 2018, I decided to run for Miss Tonga Australia here in Sydney.
Yeah.
And I did it with two of my other friends who were literally tight. We're like sisters. We're really like so close now. I became second runner-up, meaning I was the second person there. I mean, first runner-up, meaning, you know,
second place.
I came second. And my mentor, who was my sponsor as well, I didn't know it, but back then he used to be the national director for sending girls to the Philippines for Miss Earth, Tonga and Samoa.
Okay.
So, which if you guys know, back in 2017, you guys, of course, would have heard of Diamond Langi. So in the previous year, in 2017, Diamond Langi did Miss Earth. So she passed her crown down to me. So in 2018, that was the biggest achievement and accomplishment that I had done for, you know, for not just for myself, but for my country and for my family as well. So being able to represent Tonga back in 2018 was, like I said, was life-changing as well. So I did end up going to the Philippines for a whole month, but we'll get to that soon. But during that process, like my crowning process, I lost my granddad as well. So he was living in Tonga. So, you know, a month or two before I was meant to fly off to the Philippines, I get a wake-up call saying, you know, call us. We have really bad news. Woke up, rang them, and it was like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning here in Sydney. So I called my family back up and I was like, hey, what's up? And my sister turns around and she's like, are you sitting down or something? And I'm like, no, why? Just tell me. Like, you guys have already woken me up. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, I'm getting angry now. Like, tell me what is up. And she was like, well, you're not gonna like this at all. And I'm like, just get to the story. Like, just get to the point. You know, I was getting frustrated and stuff. And then she turned around and she's like, Papa passed away.
Yeah.
And I was sleeping over at a friend's house and like, I was like, just speechless. Like I didn't know what to say. I was like, I froze for like, I think 5 minutes. And then from that 5 minutes, I like got up, I walked outside and I was like to my sister on the phone. She was still on the phone. I said to her, what did you say? And she was like, Papa passed away. And I threw my phone. My phone went flying. I don't even know where it went, but yeah, it went flying. I was so angry. I hated myself again. That's when my depression and stuff came back again because I hadn't seen my family prior to that since 2015. Yeah. So I'd been 3 years down the road and I hadn't seen my family. And 2018, that's when I turned 21. So, you know, as a Tongan or as a Polynesian, 21 is a really big thing. Like you get your 21st key, like that's the key to the world. But even though you receive that key, you're still not,
it's
you
not,
know,
it's
you're
not,
still not
a real
open
key.
to go to the world. You're still at home. You're still locked up. You're still stuck at home.
They give you the key, but they don't give you the lock.
Yeah, exactly. They give you the key, they don't give you the lock. Exactly. That's how it is. But yeah, I dropped everything that year. I was meant to be preparing. I was meant to be rehearsing and stuff. I dropped everything. I up and left. I went MIA. My job didn't know where I was going. Yeah, everybody didn't know where I went. Up until like 2 or 3 weeks later when I showed back up here in Sydney, and everyone's like, where the heck did you go? And I was like, don't ask me where I went. Because if I explain it, I'm just, you know, I was angry. I was full of anger, not at the fact that, like, you know, that my papa had left me. Like, I was upset at that, yes, but I was angry at the fact that I allowed myself to stay away from my family for so long.
Yeah.
That, like, you know, I missed out on so much. Like, I missed out on a lot. I missed out on, you know, my sister's graduating. I missed out on my cousins getting married, you know, and I missed out on my little brother's childhood, like so badly. Yeah, and I just missed out on everything that was like that I should have been there for, you know, as a Tongan woman. Like, you have like obligations to do certain things, but sometimes, like, depending on how your mindset is and how you're thinking and how you view things as a Tongan woman, I felt obligated to be there every step of the way with my family, you know, with everything that's been happening in my, you know, within my family group. I wanted to know about it. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be present, but I wasn't. So, like, yeah, so when I left, so when my papa passed away, that was another like big toll on myself. And then, but I still continued on to move on and, like, you know, go to the Philippines. I was there for a month, like I said, representing Tonga. And Miss Earth, for those of you that don't know, Miss Earth is the only beauty pageant in the world that advocates for Mother Earth, for like the environment and all. So it's not about, you know, you know, your face, like Miss pageant, Universe and Miss World and stuff. Yeah, it's not about like pageant type of thing. Like, even though you do all of that, like you do all of that beauty pageant thing, but it's more about advocating for, you know, for your message, for why you were there. So,
bringing awareness to the environment.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. And how we can like better ourselves to like better the world, you know, the world. And whenever I got asked about it, that people are like, so what are you advocating for? And I'm like, well, I'm advocating for, you know, not just for Tonga, but for the, you know, but for the whole of the Pacific Islands. Like, you know, other bigger countries out there don't realize it, but like, you know, with sea level rising and stuff, like, you know, islands are literally, they're underwater. So like having to advocate and trying to, like, you know, voice out the fact that like we are dying, like our islands are actually dying. And like at the end of the day, like when our islands die, like what happens to our people? You know, there are people there who have never traveled before, people who don't even hold passports and stuff. Like it's tough, you know, it's really tough. And they don't understand that. Like they think that, you know, not having hot water or, you know, not having a car to drive and stuff, they think that that's tough, you know. But as a Polynesian and as a Tongan, we have it tougher than anybody else in the world. You know, like me living here in my own apartment and stuff, like I'm thankful for all of that. But it's just, you know, now and then I would sit here and I would think like, imagine if, you know, if my family was here, you know, they would have all of this, you know, because right now they're back there, like, who knows if they even have, you know, if any families in the islands have money to pay for, you know, for bills or anything like that. Like they literally have to suffer, you know, like working themselves to literally like to bones, like literally crawling to work just to earn money to pay for bills and, you know, to make a living and stuff. But yeah, so when I went to the Philippines, I advocated for that and stuff. People would have like people would think that like beauty pageants are like, you know, you have to be a certain size and all this and that. I went into that with my face full with food. Like we would have like, and I'm not even lying, like we have like our managers, we have like our security team, like, and all this and that, like looking out for us. Like we would have assigned like, you know, managers and like assigned little, you know, people that would like, you know, chauffeurs and stuff. And every single time we would go to an event or something, everyone would turn around and they'd be like, where's Miss Tonga? Where's Miss Tonga? And then my group of girls, like my group, they were like, we were the best. I swear to God, we were the best. I had the best group of girls with me. They would just turn around and be like, Miss, do you really want to ask us that question? And then they're like, where is she? It's her turn. It's her turn. And they're like, Miss, it's only 2 places that Miss Tonga could be at. If there's kids around, where would she be at? And they're like, with kids? And they're like, exactly, but there's no kids around. So where is she now? They're like, the food. And I was like, yes. It's like, everyone's like, yes, she's where the food is. So wherever you see food, that's where she's at. And I'm there sitting with like plates just eating. Like, you know, Polynesians love their food. Like, when you see food, you gotta go. I mean, like, you know, if nobody starts eating, then nobody else is gonna eat. So I was just there purely for the fact of, you know, going up to another country and advocating for, you know, for my purpose of being Miss Earth Tonga. And like I said, the experience, meeting the people and stuff. People would think that, you know, that every single girl is out there for the crown. Not everyone is out there for the crown. If you have a purpose, you know, every single girl has a reason and a message as to why they want to, you know, they want to represent their country for a pageant or anything. It's not because, you know, they want to show off their faces, like how pretty they are and like, and all this and that. No, it's not. That's not always the reason. It may be for some.
But yeah, there's some girls that are out there. There's some girls that are like that though.
Yeah, there are some that are like that, but for me, I was never that person, and I would never be that type of person. Like I said, I went there to represent my country, my family, you know, my people, our Tongan people, and you know, and to share awareness as to what's happening, you know, on that side of the world in the Pacific Islands, you know, what's happening with us and stuff. And I was judged because so back in 2007 as well, I had a baby sister who passed. So we could have been, you know, 11 of us, but there's 10. And I got her name tattooed on my rib side. So, you know, so the only thing that really put me off with the fact of like doing that pageant was that we weren't allowed to like actually show like our true selves, as in like we had to cover up our tattoos if you had one. Like they would force us to like cover up our tattoos, and they'd be like, you know, you're not gonna win if you show your tattoo, or like you're never gonna be able to model if you're gonna have a tattoo and all this and that. Like they basically made it out as I had just ruined my whole entire career. Like I was never going to have a career in anything, you know. But the first time they said that to me, I covered it up. And then just as we were about to step out, I was like, no, I'm not gonna cover it up. There's a meaning behind that message, behind why I have that on me. And you know, it's not just because I was, you know, drunk or whatever and I wanted to go out and like get something tattooed on me. No, I was like, it's sentimental to me, it has meaning. And if they want to see, you know, if they pick me to come here to represent my country, I will represent my country regardless whether a woman, you know, a Tongan woman is allowed to have tattoos or whatever. Like, yes, I got labeled so badly by our own people because I had a tattoo, you know. There were, you know, it was just bad names and stuff, like, and I was just like you don't understand, like, you know, just because I'm a woman doesn't mean that I'm not allowed to do this, I'm not allowed to do that, you know. Like, we are allowed. If men are able to do that type of stuff, like get tattoos or like, you know, shave their hair or whatever it is, like we should be allowed to do that, you know. We shouldn't.
There's a double standard, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it can't go one way. Like it goes
Yeah.
both ways. Just like,
Yeah.
you know, just like being in a relationship, basically. Like,
Yeah.
it's got to go both ways. You know, you got to give and take. You can't just be the one that's give, or you can't be the only one that's taking all the time. Like you got to give and take. So yeah, so I was like, nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to walk out. If they're going to hire, you know, if they're going to like sign a contract with me, or if they're going to deduct points because I've got a tattoo, then so be it. You know, I didn't come here for the purpose of getting that crown. I was like, I've already got my crown. I've got my country on my shoulder and my back.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm just going to, you know, do anything in my power to just represent my country and advocate for my message.
So when you showed when you did show your tattoo, like what were they saying? Like what were the things they were saying?
They were like, oh my gosh, she's I hate saying these words because like we get labeled this so much.
I know.
That it's, you know, they were like slut shaming me basically.
Yeah.
They were saying like, oh, you know, she's a slut, she's a whore, she sleeps around. They're like, okay, so she, you know, so it's literally all of that. I, you know, I got labeled that and stuff, and then there was like somebody that turned around and they were like, oh my gosh, like she's just made her body look so ugly because she's got that tattoo on her. And I'm like, it's bad enough because like I've never like worn bikini or anything, and I've like never been comfortable or anything, but going into that pageant I had to. I mean, I could have worn a one piece, but because of my height, that made me look like I had a small body with long legs and long arms. So it didn't fit with me. It literally didn't fit with me. And my mentor at the time had also said, like, you don't suit it. Like 2-piece bikini, that's better. Like it'll suit you. And I'm like, oh yeah, but I don't like my body. Like, you know, I hated my body. I didn't love myself. But I think with, you know, there were so many things that were going wrong at the same time with me. Like I said, I didn't love myself or anything like that. But I got, you know, I got given an opportunity to express myself and to learn how to love myself, and, you know, and accept the fact that I was going to be viewed differently, and that I was going to be, you know, name shamed and all this and that, regardless or not if they knew me or not, you know. But yeah, so I had that going on in the Philippines. And back then, like when there was things that happened in the Philippines as well, that beauty pageant girls all over the world would have gone through, but nobody has ever spoken up about it either. So one of the girls, I think it was Miss Canada, I can't remember who it was, but one of the beauty pageant girls left the pageant. She pulled out. And she ended up going back home. But when she, you know, she waited until the whole crowning moment happened and stuff. And then I think a week or so later, when everybody was back home and stuff, she decided to voice out what she went through, her experience. And mind you, there were some of us as well, myself included, that went through the same experience. So some girls, and like I say, with beauty pageants as well, or anything that you do, like even modeling industries and stuff, what people see is what you're given to, you know, to see. But what happens behind closed doors, nobody knows. Like honestly, nobody knows. So like me explaining about me doing the pageant and stuff, people will be like, oh my gosh, it's such a fun experience. They get to do a lot of fun things. They get to travel for free and stuff. Like, yes, there's so many like good things out of it. But behind closed doors, you know, there's some girls out there who, you know, couldn't eat at all because of the dietary requirements. So, you know, before, when we were filling out forms and stuff, they're like, okay, give us your dietary requirements, like, and we'll make sure that you have your own, you know, we have separate food for you and stuff. So I had a girl who's allergic to chicken, and she, you know, she represented Indonesia, and she's one of my good girls as well. She was allergic to chicken, and everywhere we went, all there was to eat was pork or chicken. And with her beliefs as well, like, you know, some beliefs you don't eat pork or anything like that, right? But majority of the places would either be pork or chicken, and then other places would be just like you said, all chicken. And then I had one of my other girls as well, who represented Italy, And like when she told us, like we thought she was joking, but she was being serious. Like as an Italian, like, you know, you love your tomatoes and stuff because, you know, you're Italian, you cook with a lot of tomato. But she was allergic to tomato.
Yeah.
Like she couldn't
Oh,
do
wow.
anything with tomato. Exactly. And like majority of the stuff had come with tomatoes in it, like with like, you know, little salads or something like that. So like, you know, she would always have to ask me, oh, can you like taste it to see if there's tomato in it or anything? And I'm like, yeah. And then somebody had come up to her and had given her like, gave us all sandwiches. And instead of like saying like, no, Italy, you can't eat this because it's got tomato in it, you know, she took a bite of it. And because her and I both took a bite of our sandwiches at the same time, and she didn't realize that there was tomato in it. And I bit it and I tasted the tomato and I spat mine out so I can tell her and say like, spit it out, like don't eat it, like there's tomato in there, you know. So I spat mine out and I was like, Italy, don't eat it. And she's like, she was already chewing it. And I was like, don't eat it. And she's like, you know, spitting it out and stuff. And like also like, you know, being told that like, you know, you're sick and stuff like that. Like there was no one, literally no one to call. Like we'd go and tell our managers like, look, this person's sick, like she needs to be taken to hospital because it's pretty bad, or you know. And they're like, yeah, we'll get somebody, and nobody would come. So like, you know, so it's also that and stuff. Yeah. But the experience that I went through and some of my girls went through as well, like it got pretty like when the girl had you know, voiced out her experience and stuff, she voiced out as well, adding the fact that there's this certain guy who he owns a yacht, he owns a restaurant, he owns so many stuff, like but he wasn't a sponsor. But that night he decided to like, hey, you know, everybody can come to, you know, organize this whole dinner for all of the girls, like there was 90 of us together to go for dinner at his yacht club. And of course we went with our managers and we went with our sponsors, we went with the CEO of Miss Earth and all, and we had dinner and stuff. And at the end, you know, he wanted to take photos with us. Like he showed us to his yacht and he was like telling us to like, you know, we can take photos and stuff. And he had props and stuff like ready for us to just like, you know, pretend to be like captains and all this and that. And then he would come up, like most of the time he would come up to me and my girls and he would like stick himself in between our photos, like in between us for our photos. And whoever's taking the photo, like they can't see it, and the girls, you know, and we're all like, there's no one behind us or anything, and we're all like grouped around this guy, like this old man. And when the photo, you know, just before the photo finishes, like, you know, when we're saying like thank you to him, he'd put his arm, like his hands down to our butt and he'd grope us. He'd literally like so he would do that. So like going through all of that as well, like you never think that any beauty pageant girl you wouldn't think that any beauty pageant would go through it, but they did. And so I went through that as well. And when the girl voiced out her opinion, one of the other girls, Miss Cuba, she turned around and she was like, nothing like that ever happened, I didn't go through it. And so I took it upon myself to comment under her comment, because the girl had posted it on her Instagram. I commented under Miss Cuba and I said to her, just because you didn't go through it doesn't mean that anybody else didn't go through it. You know, I said to her, she's voicing out the fact that she went through it, and you're sitting here like diminishing her opinion, like, you know, like you're telling her, like you're literally telling the whole world that she's a liar. And she's like, well, how would you know? You know, she just started giving attitude and just started, you know, saying all of these things and stuff. And I turned around and I said to her, I would know because I went through it too. And she basically just turned around and said, you're a liar and all this and that. And I said to her, no. The thing is, there's so many girls out there. Like I was like I was messaging other girls saying like, hey, did you guys go through it and all this and that? And they're like, yeah, we even wrote a petition. Like we even wrote up a petition, like trying to, you know, to send to the CEO and say like, look,
You
I
ban
wouldn't be
that guy.
surprised if previous girls have gone through this, you know, through the previous years, they've gone through it. But the thing is, it's never been voiced out. And I think if it was voiced out or brought up to, you know, to the organization, they would have known about it, but they still would have been like, oh, just brush it aside because he's got money. You know, if he's willing to put so much money into it, you know, then
I promise you, they probably already know. I guarantee you, they know how. They know. But you know, he has money, he has power, so status.
Exactly.
But I want to ask you, when he groped you, like what was going through your mind? Like what was your reaction when he groped you? Like
my reaction was, because we never got to it as well. Like when I found out from my adopted parents that I was sexually, you know, assaulted by my own dad.
Okay.
By my own biological father. So like I, you know, so that hit really close to home, like so close to home. When that happened at the pageant, I was like, what do these men think? Like they've got daughters, and like what would happen if, like, you know, some other men did that to their daughter? Or like what happened if their parents, like their mom went through it and their wives went through it? Like, you know, like what would they think, you know? And I always put myself in a position, in the mind frame of like, you know, if my daughter went through that, I would have wanted to murder the person. You know, I would have really wanted to murder the person, because no woman should, you know, should ever go through it. And even men, like, you know, even men, like, you know, there's things that, you know, that I didn't realize that, you know, the world always thought that it was just women that went through it. Like, you know, women go through mental health issues, women go through suicidal thoughts and all this and that, but not knowing and realizing that men actually go through it as well. You know, but that's the thing, like, you know, it just blows my mind how certain men, not all men, some men out there in the world, you know, go about thinking that it's okay to sexually harass a girl, or it's okay to grope someone, you know, just because what they, you know, they look good and stuff and all this and that. But that doesn't, you know, invite you to like do that to people, you know. And it just blows my mind as well how when girls go through that and they voice it out, people are so quick to turn around and be like, yeah, but were you drunk? Or what were you wearing? You know,
blame you.
It's like it always comes down to what you did, like what you wore or how you looked, or like, you know, or is it because, you know, my butt is big or my boobs are big, or like, you know, or this and that. Like it always comes down to the woman having to think, you know, to look at herself again and be like, is it because of what I look like? Like, is it because of me? Like, am I giving that vibe for them? Like, am I just standing there and people are just like, oh, let's just do that to her because she's easy to, you know, to be, you know, to do that to. Like, you know, like, is it because like us women are like easy to, you know, to just approach and do whatever you guys want to do to them? Is that why, like, you know, some men out there go out and do that? Or like, you know, it's just I just don't understand the whole entire thing of like why men would do that as well. Like not all men, of course.
I think a lot of it comes from just culture, society, and usually, and of course, you know, we live in a world already where the man is treated different and seen as different more than the woman. So we have that already going on. But then, but if you look in that culture, society, like, you know, usually powerful men, people with money and status and power, they always gonna believe that person more than like the no-name girl, you know. And they're always gonna make it seem like it was your fault, that you invited that, you invited that upon yourself. But it's just kind of it's sad to see, because I know it happens all the time in every country, every culture.
Exactly. Every single country and every single culture goes through it. But it's just, you know, but it's always going to be in my head, like, why, you know, why would men or why would women do certain things that they do, you know? Like, is it, you know, is it entertaining for them, or, you know, or is it just because, you know, they want to experience how it would feel like to see somebody react that way, or to see if somebody's actually gonna, you know, speak up like up about it?
Well, this is, you know, I studied psychology in college. So, we would
Yeah.
study we would study behavioral psychology. So a lot of the research that we see that most of the time when people who are like that, who sexually abuse other people, not all the time, but like a majority of the time, it's because it's been done to them.
Yeah.
So to them, that's like normal sexual behavior. So since it was done to them, it's so usually they do it. That's why they think it's okay to do it to other people, because it was done to them. So and then you add money and power and status. It just makes it even now they have more confidence to do it in the open. Usually people do that in public, in club behind closed doors, but usually seen with powerful women, powerful men, when they know they think they're untouchable because of their status.
Yeah, because
their money. So they're more prone to do it in public. So it's just kind of sad.
It is. But that's what another thing that I went through, like being in the beauty pageant as well, and also having to I know there were girls out there that some beauty pageants out there where people are forcing them to you have to be a certain size, or you have to be look a certain way, because it's appealing for the public, or the public is gonna like you more because of it and stuff. And that wasn't the case with me. The public loved me and they wanted to know more of me because of who I was. I was this bubbly, goofy girl who literally just took everything as a joke. There was nothing that was ever serious, but when it was meant to be serious, I was serious. But other than that, I was literally living my life. I was living every second like it was my last. But from all of that, that's how I learned a lot from the Philippines. That's when I realized as well, people that are doing modeling and watching the screen of doing pageants and stuff, that's when I realized that there is more to what you see or what media portrays. There is more to that than just what they portray. There's also stuff that goes behind closed doors, and you never know what anybody's going through behind closed doors. I don't know what you could be going through behind the screen, you wouldn't know what what I would be going through behind this screen either, unless we you talk about it and all this and that. But so that I took a lot of lessons out of the Philippines as well. And every single moment that I had there, every single memory that I made and the people that I met, I loved it all. If I had to, to give advice to any Tongan woman out there or any Polynesian out there, really, is if you get given an opportunity, take it. Because you never know where it would lead up to. And if it's a message from God or a message from from anyone, take it. Take every single opportunity that gets thrown to you, because it's life-changing. You will learn a lot of things out of it. You will take a lot of things out of it as well. And like I said, you will change, for better, not for worse. And you will learn, it's another way of educating you in a way that you never thought you'd be educated, and stuff. But I learned a lot from it.
I will ask you, because I love that. I love what I really truly believe that, especially if you're from a small island and you're given an opportunity, go take it, because opportunities like that don't come often, and we should always take advantage of opportunities to better our life as Polynesians. I really believe that. But I want to ask you this, do you feel like sometimes, because you I'm very grateful that you sharing these experiences, right? Because like you said, people see from the outside, but they don't know what's really going on behind closed doors. And there's a lot of things that there's a dark side behind the beauty pageant. There's a lot of things that people don't know or not aware about. But I'm glad you're voicing it up, so that way girls now that's going into it can prepare themselves just in case if that does happen to them. I'm not saying it's going to happen all the time, but you never know, right?
Exactly.
But I want to ask you, do you feel like sometimes that girls, that are from from the small islands, and they're given an opportunity to finally, go and be a miss on a beauty pageant that gets to travel the world? A lot of times, they don't, if they see something happen or something happen to them, they just don't want to lose the opportunity. Do you feel like that's sometimes the case? Because I can only imagine. I'm just trying to put myself in your, why would women allow that to happen or not say anything. But it's about, I'm just kind of like trying to, reverse and, analyze like what would they be thinking in their mind. But I want to ask you, do you feel like sometimes, if you come from the struggle in the Polynesian Islands, you're given an opportunity to go to travel the world and make a big difference, and then you see something happen to you, a lot of times, a lot of people wouldn't say anything because they're just afraid they will lose it and get sent back home. Like, do you feel like sometimes? What do you think about that? What do you think about that? Do you feel like that can be the case?
That is a lot of the case as well for like a lot of women and men as well, because there are beauty pageants for men as well. A lot of the case, majority of the case, I would probably say like 80-20%. So like 80% out of 100 would be the case. So like I said, with the experience that I went through, when I went through it, it was just like, it was in the beginning. Yeah, it's crazy. So it was in the beginning of the pageant when I went through it. And the first thing that came to my mind was like, stuff this. I'm not going to stand for this. I'm leaving. I'm going to voice my opinion and I'm going to leave. If they're going to kick me out for it, then so be it. I didn't come here for them. I came here for my country and stuff. But then I ended up just staying because I remembered it was for my family. It was for my country. It was for my culture. And, coming from a small island in the Polynesia, in Polynesia, we go through, like I said, we go through a lot of struggles. So anything that, so like I said, that opportunity, I could have just up and left it.
You could.
I continued on with it because I was, I wanted my people, or like any Polynesian person, to see, especially women, to see that, that there is more to us than just being in the island. So yes, I will admit that I am one of those people that went through it purely for the basis of like, you don't want to see your family and you don't want to see your country struggle every single time. So you want to make, you want to put your flag on the map. There's now Veronica Pomee who's out there, and she's like, Sports Illustrated, and she's Tongan as well, and there's Dinah Jane. She's put Tonga on the map because of her singing and stuff, and then there's the Mate Tonga team, the rugby boys, they put Tonga on the map because of, sports and stuff. But I want to put, myself, and I know a lot of other Tongan women out there who would be seeing this as well. They have their own way of wanting to put their country or their, their island, this small island, and, Tonga speaking as well, on the map by like doing their own businesses, like opening it up in like a different country or something like that. So so majority of the time is because of that, like 80% of it would be because of that. And men would do it as well, just looking back for, not wanting to see their family and country struggle as well. So
no, and the reason why I bring that up, because a lot of people, whenever I see a man or woman do something good, do something great, that's different, right, and elevate themselves in life, I always get, I love that. It inspires me, when I see, like you said, Veronica Pomee, when I see Tongan models, rugby players, like whenever I see Tonga represented in a place that most people wouldn't expect us to be in and really succeed, that's very empowering for me as a Tongan man to see women and men succeeding in life, because that inspires me that I have an opportunity, I can do the same thing. Like, that gives me a possibility. But the reason why I'm bringing this up, because sometimes a lot of people, when they see the Tongans first, breaking the barrier and going into those in those businesses or levels, a lot of people would like trash or criticize and judge them. But the reason why I bring this up, to let them know, look, it's not always perfect. These people that are like succeeding and going into those industries, it's not everything wasn't just smooth and perfect and gravy. There's a lot of things that they have to experience. There's a lot of bias, a lot of getting treated differently because of our color of our skin, because of where we're from. And I just want people to appreciate people like you, people like Veronica, Dinah Jane. I just want people to appreciate, especially like our own people, right? To appreciate these Tongans that are going out there and doing great things for everybody. But I want people to know that no, there's a lot of things. Whenever you're the first person to do it, you're always gonna go through a lot of darks and adversity. and things gonna happen to you. But like you said, like we carry that pride in our back to represent Tonga, and we're doing for the people, and even though we may be the first people to do it, but we just hope at least we open that avenue, that lane for everybody else, and then so that way it's easier for the next generation to go into it.
Exactly.
But it's for me it's sad to hear that you have to go through that, and anybody that has to go through that, or all Tongans have to go through that. But I feel like it's just crazy how that's how life is. That's just real life, honestly. But you just have so much love for everybody that's going through it. But you're thinking of the bigger picture. It's not about me. It's about the people I'm doing it for.
Yeah.
Because you could have made it about yourself, but there's a bigger agenda you're trying to do it for. And I just wanted to bring that up just for everybody that's listening. Show more love to anybody out, any Tongan, any girl or woman that's trying to better their life, that's trying to do great things, and just understand that they're gonna go through a lot of struggles. So they need as much love and support from as they need.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, they do. Yeah. But no, so every single, everything that I've went through and gone through as well, like has brought me to this stage now. Last year when COVID hit, of course, like a lot of people out there as well, like, doing, working and stuff was pretty hard as well. Like I was, coming here to Australia, because like when I was in New Zealand, I moved here to Australia on my own in 2016. So I was like 19 back then. And I had to like, live on my own, I was independent, and I always knew that I was going to be independent and stuff. And like, there were struggles, like, don't get me wrong, like if you're, if you want to move out at this, at 19 or younger, like you will go through struggles. Like you'll be so excited at the fact that like, yes, I'm out of my parents' home.
Freedom.
Like, exactly. It's freedom. But trust me when I say you will have moments where you will be bankrupt, like not bankrupt, but like you will have days where like, you'll be hanging on to your last dollar just to make it through until your next payday or something like that. I've been through it too. At first, like, I'm that type of person that I don't ask for help. I would rather like do it on my own, because at the end of the day, like I said, you don't know who you can trust and stuff. Like at the end of the day, they can say like, here you go, use this money to help yourself. Like it's a gift for you, from me to you and stuff. And then later on down the track, they can turn around and be like, you owe me, so you owe me this, you owe me that, because I helped you with this and that. And you're just like, ah. But yeah, so I was just like, I did everything on my own. I struggled a lot. There were times where I think the third year I struggled. Like I wanted to just up and leave everything, go back to New Zealand and live with my parents. I thought about that for so many months, and then I turned around and it was like a slap on the face to me. I was like, what are you doing? Like you can't give up. You need to keep going. I was like, why? Like, if you believed in yourself this much to be independent and move out of your parents' house when you were like 19, then you can be strong enough, to continue with this journey. Like, no matter what, what obstacles you go through and stuff. Like, yes, there are going to be a lot of hard obstacles that you will go through and stuff. But there's so many inspirational quotes and stuff that I've learned. Like, one of them is about failures. It doesn't matter how many times you fail. Like, it's from your, it's the lessons that you learn from the mistakes that you've made. And in order to succeed, you need to fail. It doesn't matter how many times you fail. As long as you're strong enough to pick yourself up and keep going, then you will eventually succeed. And there was also this quote where it was like, 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10 you would have failed, and the people that have supported you would have would have doubted you and stuff. But there's always that 1 out of 10 chance where you succeed, where you rise up and you're like, I told you guys I would do it. But it didn't matter how many times I failed, I'm here now, And it's like, and look at you guys, like you doubted me, but then now here I am, and you guys are like supporting me. Like, where's that support when you failed, you know?
And for everybody, and if all the, if you're young, you only want to move out, just to let you know, that's something I always want to preach to the younger generation and the younger Polynesians or people in general, that our definition of failure, because when we're young, we feel like failure is like means stop, it's over. But I want people to know that's listening that from my own experience, my favorite quote when it comes to failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. Yeah. It's part of the journey. So when I was younger, my definition of failure was stop. It's over, give up. That was my definition. When I failed, give up, it's over, make excuses. But then when, like you said, like somebody taught me, and I had a mentor that taught me, no, the failure is where we learn and we grow the most. That's how we become better people. That's how we learn and master our skills. So now when I fail, I'm excited. Oh, I'm about to learn today. I'm about to grow today, baby. Like, I'm excited when I fail. I'm excited because I know there's a lesson behind it. So whenever I fail, I don't say, why me? Like, why I'm like, no, I'm like, okay, why did I fail? Because I know there's God is showing me a lesson that I need to really realize and open. So I just want to share that with everybody, because I want everybody to succeed. And just to let you know, if you're failing, that means you're on the right path. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
You're on a good path. Just keep learning, keep trying. I guarantee you, and I promise you, eventually it will happen. It will succeed. And then you can look back, and everybody out there that didn't show love and support, you go like, yeah, what's up now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
so like last year, like I said, with COVID hitting and stuff, I had to change my jobs. So because I used to do retailing, I used to be a retail assistant, but prior to that I was like a nanny. Like I said, I love kids, so so I used to be a nanny and stuff. And then I went into working as a bartender and a waitress, and then going into working as a staff member at a venue, like function center, like function venue and stuff.
Oh, you were moving. You were moving all around. You were moving all around the place.
I was moving all the time.
I see you.
Yeah, and like and from that events place, I ended up being the events manager for it. And the boss is lovely. Like, he treats me like his own daughter and stuff. And he's Italian as well. So it's it helped a lot knowing that, like, you can trust your boss, and, your boss brings you into this family orientated business of his and stuff, like, and treating you like his own and all this and that. So it was really nice to do that. And and then I did the retailing job, like being a retail assistant. And I did that for like 2 years. And then, a year and a half, I think. But when COVID hit last year, I had to change my job. And that's when, I did warehousing. And I've never done warehousing in my life. So I know that some other countries, like, they say warehouse is like a factory, but like,
it's like a workout.
Like, like warehousing is like, so it's a place, like, I don't know, like, because I know that other countries have the word warehouse, but it's a different meaning as to what other countries have it as. So our warehousing is like, it's where everything that comes, the shipments that come from overseas, that's where it comes into, and then we have to sort it out and then send it out to the stores. So I got into warehousing, and that job I ended up leaving this month. They don't treat their staff members fairly. So like so it's always like, so I took a lot of days off only purely for the reason because I have a health condition, and the health condition got to that point where it was like life threatening. So some of you guys out there would have had, a hole in their heart. But the thing is, when I found out that I had a hole in my heart, I told my family, and they were laughing, thinking like, oh, a boy broke your heart and now you have this massive hole. Like, they thought about that. Like, that's what they were thinking. So they were making a joke out of it. But I was like, no, like, I literally have a hole in my heart. And I was excited about it for some reason. I don't know why. I was just like, yay, I have a hole. is it gonna close? That was me. But yeah, so that was the health condition that I have, and it progressed to the point where it was getting life-threatening. So so I had to take a lot of days off for like doctor's appointment, consultation with private, with surgeons and stuff, and all this and that. And when I got the medical certificate to prove that I was able to come to work, the big bosses turned around and they were like, no, you're not allowed to come back to work unless they give us more detail as to what you're going through. And I'm like, no. Like, that's you digging into my privacy. That's my privacy that you guys are going to dig into. That's not legal at all. And they're like, well, you can't come back into work until that, but we will pay you for the days that you have off. And I was like, okay, whatever. I didn't know how to go about it anyway. So I went back to my doctor and I told my doctor, and my doctor was like, give me their number and I'll call them. He was a good doctor. He's the best doctor that I could have been with. He rang them up and he told them, like, look, she's already provided you with the certificate. Like, you don't need any more. You're digging into her privacy and that's illegal. And he's like, you should go. Like, he was like, you've signed a contract with this person and you've dictated everything that, that is legal and illegal and what's in the work environment and stuff. But like, you're depriving her of coming back into work because you want more, you want more details into her personal, into her personal condition. Anyway, I ended up going back into work. There were even workers out there who had heart attacks, but they were able to come back to work with just a certificate saying, they're clear to go to work. Yeah. So I'm here going like, what is the difference between my condition and that person having a heart attack?
Yeah.
That person could have another heart attack now. And what, they could go home, like go to the hospital, and then they'd be like, check, yes, they're back to, they can go back to work, and they will come to work, but I will get turned around and go back. And mind you, like, those are like, that's when I started thinking like, oh, are they like doing this to me because I'm Tongan? I'm of Polynesian. Because the people that were going through that were like, they were Palangis.
Were there a lot of Tongans, Polynesians at the warehouse? Were there a lot of Tongans at the warehouse?
There were 3 or 4 Tongans, and the rest were like Samoans. They were like either full or half-caste Samoans, and then Palangis and Indians as well. Like that was the ethnic group that was in there. But myself and this other male, his Samoan as well, he went through the same thing that I went through. So I up and left because of that. And now me being an events manager, my boss wants me there full time, so he doesn't want me to go anywhere else. He just wants me there. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. So so I'm just like, okay, let's see how it goes, because it's very tiring. Like, being an events manager, you get to deal with a lot of like, with a lot of different types of clients, like customers as well. And like, majority of them in the area where we're at, like where it's based, where the venue is based, there are a lot of like, they're Lebanese and Italians and stuff. But it's not the fact that it's the ethnic group, it's the fact that like majority of the people in that area are rude. Like, that's it, they're just rude. They expect you to know everything that's going on in their head. They expect you to have everything like perfected and stuff. And like, you will go through, you will make mistakes and stuff. But instead of them turning around and like talking to you nicely about it, they will literally go to the point of yelling at you, like yelling at you, like, you don't know how to do your job type of thing, and I'm just there going like, okay, I'm just going to take it because, my job is on the line. I'm not going to risk losing my job if I talk to you and say like, no, you're wrong, you keep coming in here last minute changing your mind type of thing. So again, that applies to like, you got to think out of like, you got to stop putting yourself first at this position. You got to think something else, what's at risk, but yeah, so last year I got the opportunity to do like not just my modeling, but I also got the opportunity to do music videos as well. So last year towards the end, I know some Americans out there would know of this guy, Young and Lips. So I did 2 music videos last year for Young and Lips. His Say It one is I was in it in his Say It one, and then his manager reached out for his second song, which is coming out this Thursday. Like
let me repeat that one more time so I can so people can hear it and they can check it out. Young and Lips.
Okay, Young and Lips, Say It. So that music video, I'm in it. I'm in his second music video as well, but I'm more like in the background at this one because the vibe of it isn't what I would do.
Yeah.
It's more of like booty popping, twerking type of thing, and that was not me. That is not me. So if you see like a girl with a hose like wetting everybody, because the director wanted somebody to just stand there and wet all the girls, because mind you, these girls were the type of girls, like not all of the girls, but majority of the girls were the type of girls that like, that it's all like, they did a lot of like surgical stuff to their bodies for it all and stuff. But they're also the type of girls that, they will put the makeup on and the hair on, and it was a pool vibe scene. So you had to be in the pool. Yeah. But they're the type of girls who would just rock up but not want to get their hair wet or their faces wet or anything that. And then there's me and 3 of my other girls who were there purely for the fact of like, it's a pool, let's go swimming, it's hot, it's summer, so the director comes up and he's like, Maria, do you mind doing something for me? And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, I know these girls don't want to get wet, but can you wet them for me with the hose? I was like, no, why not? He's like, anything to entertain myself and my friends, because we were just there going like, why aren't they getting wet? Like, it's meant to be a pool vibe. But yeah, so I was standing there wetting them, and the girls turned around, they're like, not my face, not my hair. And I'm like, it's a pool party.
Exactly, it's a pool.
Exactly. And they're like, no, not my face, not my hair, I don't want it. And I was like, what, the director told me to wet you guys, so I'm doing what the director's telling me to do. I'm like, I'm getting paid by the director, not you. So I'm gonna do my job.
Hey, I want to stay here. I want to stay in this pool.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to get kicked out. I don't want to get kicked out. I want the pool. I can afford the pool. But yeah, so I got to do that music video as well, and I am sure that a lot of you out there would know these boys. So I got to do a music video as well for Kenyon Brown.
Kenyon Brown. Oh, yeah. Nice.
So Kenyon Brown, Donnell Lewis, and William Singh.
I love their music. I love their music.
Yeah. They've got like, their vibe is just everything.
They got that Vela. They got that Vela, boy. Vela. They got that fire.
They do.
They got that fire.
Exactly. Like, it's like, I'm sorry guys, but you just can't compete with Polynesian artists. It's just, they're just the best. I'm sorry. I'm just all about our people. Yeah. That's it. Look, well, not all about our people, but it's like majority of it is our people. Like, I can't relate to this whole, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj type of songs. Like, all of that is like, no, I don't relate to that. I relate to this because it's more meaningful and stuff. But yes, I did music videos for Kenyon Brown's Give You Love. So I was in that one as well. It was more like background as well because I just didn't want to be seen. And they've got more music coming out as well. One of them, again, what is going on with my phone? It's just figuring out when the music video is gonna come out as well. But I did music videos for that. I did a photo shoot last week Saturday for one of my designers. So Iki, if you're watching this, which I know you will be watching, who's also Public Islands. He's a designer here in New Zealand, here in Sydney. He resides in the western suburbs, so like, where the 1-4 crew is and stuff, that's where he's residing. So he's in this runway called it's Australia's Next Top Designer. So I did photo shoots for him as well, and he always hits me up, to do photo shoots and stuff. And like I said, every single thing that I've done up until today has been a blessing, really. Like everything that I go through in life, I always got told growing up, it's either a blessing or a lesson. And everything else that, everything that I've gone through has been, a lot of it has been lessons, but majority of it has been blessings, and stuff. But yeah, so growing up, like, having up and down and stuff, going through the things that I went through, if I didn't, I will I will honestly speak about this. If I didn't go through the things that I went through, I wouldn't be here today,
Yeah.
and if it weren't for, my family not giving me up, but, allowing me and my sister and myself to get adopted, I, again, wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be, living in this place. I wouldn't be doing photo shoots. I wouldn't be doing music videos. I wouldn't be out here, putting my family and, mainly our country, Tonga, on the map. I wouldn't be able to do that. And that itself, to me, is the biggest achievement that I could say I would have ever done in my life. Like, out of like, even though I still have so many years to go, I would say that this will be the biggest thing that I would ever have stepped out of my comfort zone to do as well. And like I said, for the women and men out there, like, just, take every single opportunity that comes your way. Don't be scared. Like, yeah, that's the biggest thing I think that I find within our younger generation, is that they hold off from allowing themselves to be themselves, or allowing themselves to be bigger and making a name for themselves, is because of fear. They have the fear of stepping out into the world, and and making the first step to actually achieving what they want to achieve, and also having the fear to stand up to their Polynesian Tongan family parents, like stepping out, and saying like, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. Like, I know it's going to cost this, it's going to cost that, but if I didn't think that I was worth doing the things that I'm doing, I wouldn't be able to do it. So, like, it's also knowing your worth. Like, know your worth, not just as a woman or a man, but knowing your worth as a Tongan person, as a Polynesian person. Whatever you do in life, always add things that you've learned growing up from your cultural background into it, because that is a big, that is a big thing that I used to do with myself, like being brought up in both a Palangi/Italian environment, and my Tongan side. I had to, even though I was, I'm full Tongan, having to bring everything that I've learned from my Tongan culture into the Palangi world, like, having to mix the two in together. Like, even though you were born, say for example, you're born and raised, here in Sydney, but your background is Tongan. Don't just live like, a Sydney person, like, a person that from that country. Like, live as well as your culture, your cultural background. Like, put the two together, and you'd be surprised and amazed at how much you can do. Like, don't just live off one culture, live off both cultures. If you're half Tongan, half Samoan, don't live with this whole facade of like, Tongans and Samoans hate each other. Because I know up until this day, people are still asking me like, why do Tongans and Samoans hate each other? And I'm like,
we don't.
I know. I was like, we don't. And I was like, and even if there's, Tongans and Samoans out there who do hate each other, I'm here going like, if they do, then they should stop it, because it's none of us know exactly what's happened. We don't know what happened back then in the days. Like, I've heard people saying, oh, it's because it's because the Tongans ate the Samoans, or the Samoans did this to the Tongans. And I'm like, and I'm here going like, unless you were there at that day and age, then you will know what happened. But that's in the past. Leave what's in the past in the past. Unless it's lessons that you've learned, from stories that you've been told about the past, that's relevant for nowadays, then yes, bring it up. But unless it's irrelevant, like, don't bring it up, because it's just going to start dramas and stuff. But whatever you do, learn from me, bring your culture into it. I always put everything, in the Tongan perspective. Like, even with when I'm wearing something, or if I'm doing something, I'm like, if I did this in Tonga, what would happen? But if I did this, here, this is gonna happen. But if I put the two together, then everybody's happy, including myself. I've always been that person as well, who's always pleasing other people. I always put people, others before myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you can ask anybody that knows me. I always put others before myself. But the moment that I decide to put myself first, I'm labeled as you're selfish. Your parents didn't treat you right. You're not apa into your culture, or you're not apa into your family. It's like I'm the disrespectful person.
Yeah.
But when I put the two together, it's like, it's better. Like, I don't hear my Tongan family going like rah 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 rah, and I don't hear my other family going like rah 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 rah. I'm up until now, I'm still doing things that pleases both sides, but is benefiting me and it makes me happy. But what makes me happy is that if both my family sides, my Tongan and my Palangi side, are happy, then I'm happy, because that's all that matters to me is family. And if I haven't said it so many times, it's always family. Like, what if anything in the world that makes me happy, or if anybody said like, what is your weakness? My weakness is my family. Like, that is my biggest weakness. You take my family away from me, then there is nothing else for me. Like, like that is my core. Like, that's my center. My family is my center. And it always has been, and it always will be, with everything that I do. So yeah.
Wow.
That was a lot.
That was a journey right there. That was one hell of a journey.
I'm so sorry for the long story, but like
it was great. Now first I just want to say, Maria, thank you for sharing the story. Thank you for having the courage to share it and speak from the heart. And that was that was so entertaining. It was deep. It was funny. Like, there's every category of every movie you can in your life story. We have comedy, we have drama, we have mystery.
Like I said, I'm the goofy one.
So your story fit every profile in every movie category. So great job to you. All right. But I do want to tackle a lot of things that you did share, and kind of unpack a lot of things you share, because I feel like I told you earlier before we started the podcast, I told you that a lot of the things you're gonna share, a lot of people are gonna watch this, and then they're gonna relate to, and they're gonna resonate, and also a lot of people that are watching this are probably going through it as of right now. A lot of things that you share. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for having the courage to say it. I really appreciate that from you. The first thing I want to uncover, because I feel like there's something that happens a lot. I know you mentioned about being protected too much, being a Polynesian woman, and it's funny because I had a conversation with somebody a couple podcasts ago. I can't remember who it was, but he said that it's Bussy. Hey, Bussy, if you're watching this, shout out to you, Bussy. Bussy Tamo Piao. He mentioned that he felt like that he was sheltered and protected too much as a child by his parents, and then when he went to the real world, he wasn't prepared for it. And he said that one thing he would have wished that his parents would have done to him wasn't allow him to experience things, because Polynesian, in our culture, Polynesian women, you're supposed to stay home all day. Cook, clean, and you're supposed to stay home. And so, and if a lot of Tongans or Polynesian women, if you're watching this, you can relate that a lot of you stay at home, and they shelter you from the world and from the experiences. And then of course you add the shame that they put on Polynesian women if they ever do go out and experience the world. They slut shame you, and they criticize you. So, exactly. But for me, in my own life journey, I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't go through all the experiences I went through in life. And I feel like when I do have kids one day, I'm going to make sure that I let them experience things on their own. But of course, within boundaries, within my guidance.
Of course.
I take care of them and make sure I guide them. But I feel like that's why a lot of Polynesians, like you said, are not being who they are and really growing and expanding their own life and to be the best version of themselves. So I wanted you, can you talk about that? What's it like, as a Tongan woman, that they protected you too much, and why you feel like that doesn't help you as a woman to grow? Because I feel like a lot of girls, I've had conversations with a lot of Tongan girls, like, they talk about, man, my parents are so strict on me. They don't allow me to go anywhere. You know, I don't, you know, they don't want me to do this, and they just still feel so restricted. And a lot of times, it turns into rebellion. They become rebellious, right?
Yeah.
And they actually do the things that their parents didn't want them to do, because they just like, you know, because I feel like if you try to restrict somebody, they're more likely to do that behavior instead of allowing them just to be themselves and go experience, but just let them know, hey, you know, for me, if I have a daughter one day, I wouldn't try to like restrict her from going to parties. I'll just I'll prepare her. Hey, look, if you go to a party, you know, if a man does this to you, if he tells you, I'll prepare her for the situation, you know, so she can think on her own, because as parents, like, you won't be there the whole time to guide your kids in life. They have to be prepared to be able to make their own decisions. And I feel like by sheltering kids and, like you said, by protecting them too much, you're actually doing them a disservice when they start to go to real life and experience on their own. So can you talk about that, being protected too much as a Tongan woman?
Yeah. So as a Tongan woman, you know, like I said before, and like some other women would have said before as well, like, we get protected. I don't know if it's every single Tongan woman in the family, like every single, you know, so like if you're from a big family, I don't know if it's like every single daughter that gets protected, or if it's just the middle daughter, or the youngest, or the oldest. I know that sometimes, you know, I know that, like, watching it and stuff, like, I know that the oldest one is always the one that's like strict and stuff, you know. The middle one is sometimes the one that gets away with everything, or is just chilled out and stuff, and it's like, oh, you're gonna put it to me, I'm gonna put it the younger one to do it, you know, that type of stuff. And the youngest one is always the spoiled one, the one
they let loose.
Exactly, they let loose, exactly. And like, that's the one that they show more, like, they show love and affection, you know, they show emotion to.
I'm lucky I'm the youngest in my family. They let me loose. That's probably why I'm doing. It's probably why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because they just let me. When you look at my siblings, they're all like one way, and then I'm off the rails. I'm like, oh, totally left field.
That's probably why my siblings are sometimes like, you should have been the youngest one, not the middle one. And I'm just like, hey, sometimes the middle one has to be the mature one. No, so growing up, being sheltered and being protected, it has its ups and downs. Like, of course, like, as a parent, like, you know, if you've, you know, having your first child, especially like if it's a girl, it's, you know, they protect her, but only to, like, not that much as the years go by when they're having more kids. But having the first one, like, they teach them the way that I see, and how, like, looking back at it now, I'm just like, wow, my parents actually, well, my mom, because like I don't have a bond with my dad at all. So, like, you know, watching my mom, you know, how my older siblings are, especially my sisters, is that the oldest one in my family would have been taught how to be the parent, you know, how to be a mother, like teaching them young to be like, look, you know, in the future you might have younger siblings, so I'm going to have to teach you to be a mom. If anything, God forbid, if anything ever happened while my sister was still young, like, at least she's ready to mother and show the love and affection that, you know, my mother or my parents had shown on her, so she can, you know, pass that on down to us. Because of course, as time goes by, your parents would just be like, oh, there's too many kids, we just don't want to show emotion to everyone and show them love, so I'm just going to be tough all the time, you know. But when I was protected and sheltered, I was protected from, again, like some other people have, Tongan people, men and women, have gone through, I was protected from being myself. I was protected from learning the good and the bad. You know, I was protected from making mistakes and learning from my mistakes. Like, I was deprived from that, of course. And, you know, and at first, when you're at a young age, you're just like, okay, I'm protected from everything. I don't need to know anything. I don't need to know everything. You know, I'm just gonna, you know, when I'm older, they're gonna teach me, hopefully. But in our culture, in our community, in our Tongan community, we are taught at a very young age, you know, how to do things and how to go about, you know, Tongan life actually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think so yeah, they protected me from the outside world. They didn't protect me from, you know, they didn't prepare me or anything for the outside world, but they were preparing me for the Tongan world. In a way, it did work out, but in a way it didn't. So like they didn't prepare me for the fact that, you know, that I was gonna be slut shamed as a woman or anything like that. No, they didn't. You know, they didn't prepare me to be like, hey, you know, you will get, you know, there will be boys who will like, you know, whistle at you, but don't react because you're not an animal. You know, you're not a dog. But like, you know, they didn't, you know, they didn't, you know, they didn't teach me that and this and that. But what I've learned was that my mom actually prepared me and protected me to teach me how to be a woman, how to be a Tongan woman. In fact, like, you know, she taught me how to cook. She taught me how to clean. She taught me how to, you know, do things that women would do, like for women's house, you know, for when you're getting married. And like, you know, she prepared me for that and stuff. Because if you look at it nowadays, some women out here don't even know how to cook or clean. Like, you know, like living in a foreign country, but being brought up, you know, it's hard when you're living in a foreign country and being brought up in your culture, because there are certain things that you can and can't do that abide by the law of that country. So like so like you know, so like I said, like I was very protected, I was very sheltered, but it did, you know, they did teach me how, you know, how to be a woman, a Tongan woman, and how to be a woman in general as well. But again, like I said, I was deprived from, you know, from thinking that I could be more than a Tongan woman. I was deprived from thinking that I could be more than just a mother, you know, that I could be more than just having to stay at home and cooking and cleaning for everybody in the family. You know, I was deprived from all of that. I was deprived from having my own dreams. I was deprived from, you know, from being able to step out and going to another country and finding myself and finding, you know, things that I'm happy to do. Because I was just, you know, I was just at home going like, okay, school's finished, go back home. That's it. Sundays, wake up, go to church, you know, ngahi me akai and stuff, you know, do the umu and stuff, and then go to church, come back, you know, tufa me akai for everybody to eat, and then cleaning up after that, and then having a nap, and then having to wake everybody else up, you know, all the kids up again, getting them dressed for Sunday school and stuff. So like, yeah, so like I'm thankful. I'd say I'm thankful and blessed that they did protect me in a way, because I think if they didn't, I don't know if it's every single, you know, if it's every single Tongan family or Tongan household, but me being protected is a good thing and a bad thing as well, because, you know, not being able to, you know, to know the outside world, but it taught me my culture. It taught me, you know, what Tongans are. It taught me to love and respect my culture and to put my culture into perspective with everything that I do in life. So in me saying that, like, I'd say being protected in my family was a good thing. You
know, no, I was just kind of just listening, analyzing everything. You know, like you said, there's an advantage, a disadvantage. You know, for protecting somebody, and I love how you said it. You know, the great thing about being protected, you know, we learn about our culture. I think that's a good thing. You learn about your heritage, you learn about the values, the traditions. We learn about our culture as a people. I guess the only thing I can say is that the one disadvantage of protecting too much. I feel like there's levels and degrees of when it comes to, you know, protecting, because it's different for every family, different for every dynamic of whatever the family and how they raise their kids. But I guess what I, you know, based on my own observation, like you said, because I was protected a little bit to some degree, you know, as you know, my you know, I was raised in a very hardcore Tongan lifestyle. You know, if I, you know, die, if I did this, you know, even though as guys we still did our own thing, but you know, I was raised by my grandmother, but my grandma was really hardcore, like very strict when it came to raising us. So, but I feel like you know, growing up now and we're in the newer generation in this time of now in society, I feel like that the one thing that prevents kids from really growing is because we don't kind of prepare themselves. I think that's one disadvantage, because if we don't prepare them for real life, like you said, I think one thing you said was like failure. We don't allow them to experience things so they can fail. All right.
Yeah.
Because, I think that's something that we need to teach kids. It's okay to fail.
Yeah. That is
right?
true. That is.
It's okay. But the thing is, if we don't allow them to fail, we never teach them the ability of perseverance, of overcoming,
Yeah.
of persistence, having that grit. But then when we grow up in real life and we actually go in the real world and fail for the first time, and then it's harder to fail as an adult than to fail as a kid.
It is,
you know what
as
I'm saying?
a kid, yeah.
As a kid, and we fail, it's not a big deal. It's not, it is what it is. But if you've never failed your whole life growing up as a Tongan or a woman or man, and you go to real life and you fail as an adult, that is a whole different pressure. And
it is
that you're gonna get when you fail as an adult. And I guess for everybody it's different, but I think that's for me. I can see it. Yeah, I'm glad that I was in that pressure. Yeah, I think I was glad that there was sheltering in some type of sheltering in my life, because I did learn about my culture, my Tongan heritage, my Tongan life, but
yeah, MMT guys, MMT.
MMT baby. But I felt like that, when I went to the real world, I made a lot of mistakes. I'm not gonna lie. I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of stupid mistakes. That's why I'm so grateful, to God, because there were a lot of things I did that if things would have turned out worse, I would have been locked up right now. I would have been in prison. I would have been done like some hard time. I made some stupid. We all go make some stupid mistakes. So
yeah, of course.
But I just felt like, man, if I would have known about it, then I would have made a better decision. But I feel like that's what happens when we don't prepare our kids for real life. They're just left to the mercy of the real world.
Yeah,
and you're just hoping for things to work out well. But why don't we give the kids the tools they need, and the skills they need, so they can go out to the real world, still be a proud Tongan,
yeah, of course.
and be proud of themselves. But now they know what to do in real life situations, and I feel like that's what a lot of kids, if you go to real life and you don't have no idea how to handle real life, that's why you're just prone to make a lot of decisions. And I feel like let's try to lessen that in the next generation. So that way the next generation, they don't make the decisions that we made. Now they make smarter decisions, and hopefully they can create a better life. And they're still going to make mistakes along the way, but that's part of life. But we don't have to keep making the same mistakes.
Yeah, that is true. Exactly. Yeah.
We don't have to all keep going to jail. We don't have to all, keep, having teen pregnancy, like, we don't have like these things I see within our community, our culture, that keeps happening. I feel like that can be avoided if we teach our kids, like pregnancy. We can teach our kids about sex. We teach them about sex. They know what to do when they go in there.
Yeah.
If you don't teach them about sex, they just go have sex.
They don't know.
And then babies come out early, but and alcohol, drugs, and like I said, just teach. I feel like we just need to, not expose, but just let them be aware of what the real world is. Let them experience it.
Yeah.
Instead of sheltering them so much to the point that it's you're just hoping as a parent that they're gonna do well.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree with you. Yeah.
All right. So that's something I want to talk about. I want to go into when you talked about how women get treated differently than the men. I want to talk about that a little bit more, because I know that's one of the main things that a lot of women struggle with. Double standards, gender roles, that's expectations that's placed. I remember I did an interview with podcast with Lanu. I don't know if you know Lanu Faletau. I asked her that question: what's the hardest thing about being a Tongan woman? And then she said that the hardest thing about being a Tongan woman is you guys get criticized for everything, no matter how big or small. It's always blown over proportion. Doesn't matter what you do, and women get shamed the most. It's like Polynesian women shamed the most by society. So I want to ask you is, what's the hardest thing about being a Tongan woman, growing up and especially in this new, modern society, try to figure out the new world that we live in, and of the things that, and in the culture, the things that that's within our culture that's placed upon women to follow, but it doesn't really allow them to grow because of all these expectations and things that they require from you, and it's kind of, I feel like, stops you from growth. I want to ask you that question.
To me, the hardest thing about being a Tongan woman is actually being a Tongan woman. To me, that is the hardest thing. Because as a Tongan woman, we're expected to do a lot. We're expected to know what a Tongan woman is, like being a Tongan or being a woman. We're expected to play the role of being a woman. Back in the days, being a woman, is you have to stay home, you have to look after the kids, you have to cook and clean, you look after the place. That's it. Women in general are, portrayed as we're the housewives, whereas the men are the ones going out there getting the money, and that's how it is back then. But nowadays it's different. It's like, it goes both ways. You need two incomes to come in and stuff. But as a Tongan woman, I had to go through a lot. I was expected by my family, like being here now in Australia, like, being a Tongan with your family in Tongan, and being a Tongan woman or a Tongan man in a different country, in a foreign country, this is a big thing that happens all the time. They think that money grows on trees. So like, and as a Tongan woman, we're expected to, to always provide for our family. I know Tongan men are as well, like they're expected to provide for your family, but I feel like as a Tongan woman, they're expecting you to do that more. Like they're expecting you to literally send them every single pay that you have. They're expecting you to, like, I had an altercation before with my biological mom. Sorry, excuse me. A couple of years ago, where I was working 2 or 3 jobs at the time, trying to, because I was on my own, living and paying bills and stuff. Like it's crazy. And at the same time of paying for my bills and stuff, my mom turned around and she was like to me, she had an argument with my dad, because apparently she was saying that my dad wasn't paying for my brother's school fees. And then I was like, okay, well, that's an adult thing. Like it's a parent's thing that has nothing to do with me. I'm the sibling of that child. I am your other child. It has nothing to do with me. So my mom turned around and she was like, you have to pay for the school fees. And I was like, excuse me, like, oh, like, I was like, okay, I'm more than happy to pay for it, but at least ask me as your daughter, like, ask me. Don't just say like, you have to pay for it. Like, like, I get it. Like, I'm here to help you out. It's my role now to help you guys out, because you guys have done so much for me growing up and stuff. It's my turn to give back. And I was obliged to pay for my brother's school fees. And I told my mom, and I said to her, I'm sorry, but I don't have the money. Like, one, it would have been nice if you asked me first, like, how are you and all this and that. Second, it would have been nice if you asked me nicely to help you out and say like, look, you're struggling or this and that. But the fact that you just came out bluntly and said like, you have to pay for it. I said to her, if I had the money, I would have helped out, but I don't. So my mom turned around and she disowned me. She disowned me purely for the fact of not paying for my brother's school fees.
Wow.
And so like, you're always, as a Tongan woman, you're always expected to give, and to always say yes. You're not expected to turn around and say no, because they say that that the women are, they're the pearl, or like they're the princess of the family, like they're the one, like it's always the princess and stuff. But in fact, it's always it's the men. it's the men that like, they're the pele of the family, like, the favorite of the family, or the favorite of, of your parents or your grandparents. But the women are the ones that are expected to provide for everything, to turn around and be the problem solvers. We're expected to be the ones to, put everything down, like drop everything and go and, and help out whatever needs to be, to be done and stuff. Like we're expected to do everything for everyone. We're expected to do that. So I think that's where my personality comes in, where I'm expecting myself, like, oh, people are expecting me to please everyone. I'm the people, I'm the please maker. Like I have to make peace within everyone, because that's how their role portrayed onto me. Whereas like, you have to please everyone. If you're not pleasing, if nobody's happy, then you're bad. Like, you're the worst daughter that there is. And that has been said to me before as well.
Yeah.
Like, when my mom disowned me, she turned around and she's like, when there was when my little sister passed away, we were at the funeral, and like we had just done the burial, and we were having the last night of like having the family together and stuff. I turned around to my mom and I was like, Mom, are you okay? My mom turned around and she's like, I wish you died instead of your sister. And she looked up and she's like, God, she looked up and she's like, God, take her. She was like, God, please take her and give me back my baby. Wow. Like that's what she said to me. So it was like, it was tough. I broke, like I was broken to pieces. I never expected a parent to say that to me, or anybody in general. But but like I said, being a Tongan woman itself, that's the hardest thing that I find in our community, in our Tongan community, is just being a woman in general. I feel like being a woman in a Tongan community, like, it doesn't matter whether you're a good person or a bad person or whatever. It doesn't matter. You're purely judged for being a woman that is of Tongan descent. So that's what I feel like is the hardest thing for me. So
let me turn on my let me turn on my light. I gotta turn on my light. Give me 1 second. It's getting like afternoon. There we go. Some light. There we go. Okay. All right. Because I know it's getting a little late. No. All right. So no. That's absolutely true. I see that a lot. Man, that sucks that that happened. Your mom. I can only like empathize for you, and just imagine if my own parent told me that. Because one thing about us Tongan kids, we worship our parents to the point. We put them on a pedestal because that's how we're raised. We like all about, like you said, it's all about family. In the Tongan community, family is everything. It's God, family, and everything else. So
that is true.
And then and that's what and also, like, I remember you talked about before, we're afraid as Tongan kids, that we're afraid of failure and we're afraid to disappoint our parents. And that's one of the hardest things to navigate within your own life as a Tongan child, is how can I live my life, but at the same time, how can I not disappoint my parents? Because I want to be happy. I want to do what I want to do for my own life, but at the same time, I love my parents too. I don't want them to be unhappy and be disappointed on me. So that's like the dilemma that we have to navigate through. It's one of the hardest things to do, to figure out in our life.
It is.
And some people never figure out. Some people just listen to their parents all the time and they hide their feelings, how they really feel their whole entire life. But I do want to go into that. I feel like that's something, because I know you said that you mentioned that you had to stand up for yourself and say no of the things that they ask of you, because I feel like that comes from self-love and self-priority and self-help that is something I feel like that doesn't that we're not taught as kids. I remember I did a podcast with who was it? I forgot who it was, but I remember. Oh, it was Kiana. Shout out Kiana, if you're listening. Shout out to you. She said that we were talking about relationships between the parent and love, and she said, in the Polynesian culture, the definition of love means that the only way you can truly love somebody is by sacrificing your life for them. And the more you sacrifice, because love is reciprocal. That's what truly, like, if you want the real definition of love and what the essence of love is, reciprocation, right? The more I give you as much as you give me, right? Because we cherish and appreciate and we respect one another. But in the Tongan, in the Polynesian side of love, it's one-sided, right? It is kind of toxic. But in the Polynesian culture, that the way we know, the way we define somebody, that if a family member or person in the community that they love you, is if they're willing to sacrifice everything. And that's the way our parents judge us, if we're a good boy or daughter, is my child willing to sacrifice everything they have and give it back to me. And when I ask them of something, they better give it to me. And if they give me everything they have, and whenever I ask it, they're a good daughter, they're a good son. That's their definition of love, right? And if you don't meet that expectation, if you don't meet that standard of love, or if you're not willing to, and like I said, if you say no, then to them, you die off. You don't love me. And I can relate to that, because when I decided to go down my own path of doing things for my own, because I grew up I grew up that way, where everything I did, I had to give back. And my family asked for, I get that paycheck, goodbye to my paycheck.
True.
Most people will be, when I see probably most people in America, they get happy on payday. For me, I'm not happy on payday, because I know I'm not
happy at all.
I know where my check's going. It's not going to me. But I feel like as Polynesians, in order for us to grow, and I feel like I see a lot of my friends and my family members, younger family members, suffer because they can't have the confidence in themselves to say no to their family. And then whatever their family asks of them, they just give. And I'm a big advocate for self-love, for happiness. I feel like for me, happiness trumps everything. Happiness trumps families, trumps relationships, trumps friends, trumps your job. If you're not happy in a situation, doesn't matter what it is or who puts you in that situation, you have to do what's best for you. And I believe that in the bottom of my heart. But that is something that is very hard to believe, especially if you're raised in the Tongan culture, where you're raised that you have to do everything for them. And I remember when I first decided of what I really wanted to do for my life, especially what I'm doing now. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to start doing things on my own and doing the things that makes me happy, because I wasn't at a happy place. And of course, especially when I started, I realized I had a dream of what I wanted to do, which I'm doing right now. And I realized that, every dream costs money. You gotta finance your own dreams. Dreams, so don't just, like you said, those are growing trees like the Tongans, like the Tongans back in America. No, I have to finance my dreams. And a lot of times my family will ask me for financial support, and I would have to tell them no. Sorry, I can't give you the money now, because I had to do this for myself, for my own happiness. And I remember my family's just cares about the world, material. He just cares about himself, and he's selfish. And I'm like, and it's crazy, because look, I've been living my whole life to this point where I've done everything you've asked me. Right? Of course, I'm not perfect. Of course, I'm not perfect. I messed up along the way. But for the majority of my life, whenever you ask me something to do, I will go out my way to give you everything. And a lot of times, I will literally give them everything, and then have nothing else, and I will cry, and just at home, I have no food. I haven't even ate yet. I haven't even bought myself. I haven't even paid my bills yet. I paid all your bills, but I'm still trying to figure out how to pay my own bills right now. But I never tell them. Of course, I never tell them that. I never tell them I'm struggling while I'm helping them out. I just help them out, even though I'm struggling myself. But then I realized that's not sustainable. It's good short term. It's good short term, but long term, right? It's not sustainable to do for your whole life. Eventually, you're gonna burn out, and that's why I feel like a lot of Polynesians burn out, depressed, struggling mental health, is because we don't know about self-love. We're not taught self-love, and we don't have the courage to prioritize ourselves and put ourselves first because of the way we grow up in our culture. So can you talk about that? Learning about self-love, learning about standing up for yourself to do what's in your best interest and what makes you happy.
Yeah.
And because I know a lot of, and I know you just said it so casually. Yeah, I just said no. I know you said it so casually. Oh yeah, I say no all the time. But in reality, it's like saying no to your parents is it's hard. So I don't want these kids I know a lot of these kids are like, oh my God, how am I gonna do that? How am I gonna say no to my but I want you to talk about that. Can you talk about growing up and always doing things for me? When did you realize, okay, I need to start doing it for myself? When did you have the awareness to realize I gotta do what's good for me and what's best for me? And even though you knew there was gonna be disappointment, even though you knew there was gonna be judgment, but you realize for yourself that your happiness, is more important than what everybody else thinks of you. But it's I feel like that's one of the main topics that a lot of younger Polynesians and Tongans, it's one of the things that we struggle with as growing up, and some of us our whole life we just never learned that our whole life. But I'm so glad that you did, and that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to spread empowerment, love, and positivity, not only for everybody, but especially to my Tongan people, because I have a lot of friends and family members that are struggling right now that nobody knows about, not even their own parents. They struggle silently, and I wish for them they could just have the voice to speak up, but they can't. And do what's best. And I hope that, and you already know what happens is if you suffer for a long time, the extreme is you start hurting yourself. And worst case scenario, like I've seen some of my friends commit suicide, and I don't want that for anybody. That's why I feel like self-love is empowering Polynesians to do what's best for them, to love themselves, to make their happiness a priority. I feel like that's a big thing that we need to do. But can you talk about that? Yeah.
It
Sorry.
is, yeah. It's okay. Don't worry. So my, what I went through it and stuff, of course, like I said before, growing up as a Tongan woman or a Tongan, it's tough. Like you have to please your parents, it's always having to give to your parents. And like you've mentioned yourself as well, like you would drop anything and everything that you're doing in your power to help them out no matter what. I've been in your position before as well, where I have had to give my last, money that I had, to make sure that my family, my parents had food on the table, that, they had, water to drink, they had, that they had, a roof to live under. Even though I didn't know that if I would have a roof to live under or not, if I had, if I was going to have food on my plate or not, I didn't care about myself.
You didn't care.
I put them first. I think when I was at the age of 15, I'd say was when I realized that, that I wasn't going to be able to please everyone. And even if I did, I wasn't going to be happy.
Yep.
But I didn't act on that feeling. I just thought it was just like, oh, it's just a feeling. It's just a thought, whatever. Just brush it aside. I brushed it aside so many times up until when I was 19. That's when I moved here to Sydney in 2016. And, and I started putting, that's my first job here. That's when I did my first job here as a babysitter, as a nanny, caring for the child and stuff. And I was like, and I cared for that child for 2 years. And, and looking back at it, I was like, wow, all my life I've been caring for others. And that's how it's always been, being brought up, you're brought up and taught how to care for others, and you have to care for others, and you always have to put others first, especially your family, especially your parents. So that's when, the money asking from my family started as well, because I never told them that I moved here to Sydney and I was doing that job. I never told them. I kept it all away from them. But then I put up on Instagram, and the only social media that I have that they're not on at the time was Instagram. And I had posted something up, and I never look at who views my stories, but for some reason my gut was telling me, look at who's viewing your stories. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I was viewing, like I was scrolling. And then I come across somebody with the same last name as me. And I was like, I was so tense. Like, I was like nervous. I was like, what is going on? Like, is it one of my family members? Like, it could be my sibling. Like, I don't know. Clicked into it. And just as you know, it's my little sister, like the youngest one after me. And she messaged me and she's like, oh, I see you're doing well. Where are you? And I'm like, and me having in my bio Sydney, I was like, oh, I'm just, living life, enjoying my life, working, earning money. And as I was like talking to her, I was going into my bio to try and delete Sydney off it. And it was too late. She had already seen it. She told my parents. After I got off the phone with her, I started getting the messages like, oh, you didn't tell us that you were, you got a new job. You didn't tell us that you moved out of, your adopted parents' home. You didn't tell us you moved to a new country. You didn't tell us that, you're earning more money. And I was like, there's a reason why, and that's when they started asking me like, hey, so and so is having like a katoanga, or they're having a luku, or they're having like, everything just started coming like left, right, and center. They just started telling me all of this. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad that you're telling me that that's what's happening, but what do you guys want? Like, it was never, I never asked them like, what do you guys need? I only asked them, what do you want? Because for so many years, they never spoke to me. It was never a, hi, daughter,
Hey,
how are you? I miss you. It was never that. My family only contacted me when they wanted something. And like, I know for like other people that would watch this, they'd be like, some of you guys might think like, oh my gosh, she's a bitch for saying that. But like, it's true. That's how it is in our culture. In our culture, I'm not saying all Tongan families do it, but I will sit here and I will honestly say that majority of Tongan families out there will just contact you because they want something. Not because they need something, but because they want something.
Especially if you're overseas and they're back at the island. It's more, that happens a lot more.
Especially if you're in if you're in a foreign country and they are back home in Tonga, in our island home, they will contact you only on the basis of not caring about what, how you are or anything like that, but on the basis because in their mind, they're only thinking they've got a job, money grows in trees there, they can get money just like that. Like they would snap their fingers. It's like magic. That's what they would think. It's like magic. They will get money just like that.
We're millionaires.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what they think. And and that's when I started, like, I gave in at first. I just kept giving them little by little and stuff until when I moved out, and I moved into my own apartment and stuff. That's when I figured out, like, I can't keep doing this. Like you, like I'm literally running myself high and dry. Like I'm giving everything. I'm getting exhausted for working like 2 to 3 jobs on a daily basis, like not having rest, having to, kill myself for this, for earning money to provide for them and myself. And it's not healthy. It wasn't healthy on me. I lost so much weight. Like when I was in New Zealand, like that's when I started putting on weight. And like I never saw myself as a chubby person, but I liked myself as a chubby person. Like when I saw myself, I was like, ooh, I like myself. And then you go back to Tonga and they're like, see, okay, I'll go fatty. Like, whakaholo and all this and that. They're like, I guess you see and everything. I'm just like, I can't please any of you guys. Like, I'm either too skinny, or I go back and I come back and I'm too fat, or I go back and I come back and I'm too skinny. Like, it's always that. Like you will never be able to please anyone or everyone. But yeah, so like going back into it as well, like I started telling myself, like, Maria, you need to stop what you're doing. It's unhealthy. It's, it's not good for your mental, for your mindset. Like my mental health went all over the place. I started getting depressed a lot as well. Again, depression and stuff kicked in a lot again as well, because, I had to start thinking of, providing for other people on top of like how to survive on my own, how to like survive for myself and how to earn stuff for myself. And then that's when I think the year after, that's when my mom messaged me and, asked me to pay my brother's school fees. It was exactly how I said it. I was just like, one, you didn't ask, if you had asked me like how I am and stuff. 2, if you had asked me nicely about it, then, that would have been a good, a better way of approaching, the situation. And 3, if I had the money, I would have helped you, And then I turned around and I was like, and I said, no, I don't have the money. I can't help you. And and my mom she went off. Like my phone, I literally slid my phone across the room. I was like, I'm not gonna hear this. And because it was on speaker.
Yeah.
I swear to God, like I'm pretty sure my neighbors could have heard her like yelling through the phone, telling me like she started like saying really hurtful things that you would never expect anybody to say to anyone. Like she started off by saying, offer, she was like, no hanga, I brought you up like this and that. And she was like, earning so much money. And she's like, you don't love us. She's like, okay, family and stuff. She's like, you don't love your brother and stuff. I'm just like, and when she was like saying all of those hurtful things, I kept trying to cut through, like to try and like mom, no, I love you. You don't understand.
To hear your side.
To hear my side. But she just kept going off and off and off. And I was just like, I just sat there and I just took it. Like I was like, and in my head, I was like, you knew you were going to go through consequences. You didn't think that this is how badly it was going to be. But but I was like, I was prepared. I prepared myself for it. I was like, I need to stop putting myself first. I was like, that's when self-love started coming in. I was like, how do I go about it? Like, how do I end my mental health, my depression, my anxiety? How do I end any of that? So when I said no, like, I expected my mom to get all angry and stuff, but I didn't expect her to turn around and disown me. I didn't expect her to turn around. Like she turned around and she's like, from now on, never ever contact me. She's like, you're not my daughter. You never was. She's like, she was like, you're the worst person that I could ever, she was like, I never believe, she's like, I couldn't believe, I can't believe that I gave birth to you, or this and that. It's really hurtful things, like, really, really things. And so I was like, okay, I didn't cry at all in front of her. I held it all in. And then once the phone cut off, I bawled my eyes out. Like, I think I would have cried for like 2 weeks straight, nonstop. It was bad. Like I had put myself into this bubble where if anybody tried to talk to me, I would have just turned around and be like, go away. Like, go away. Don't talk to me. I ended up hating the world because my mom disowned me, because I stood up for myself, and there was no like phone calls or anything like saying I'm sorry or anything like that. Nothing. Up until now, I still haven't gotten a sorry from my mom, but I put it all in the past. I forgive. And you will never forget, but you will forgive. But it still lingers in the back of your mind now and then. But but doing that, like for whoever, for all of you Tongan women and men as well, like our Tongan, younger Tongan generation, it's hard to say no to your parents because, you won't expect, the outcome. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. Like, who knows? Some of your parents out there might turn around and be like, okay, I understand, but that's highly, there will be some that will be out there, but majority of them, if they're like very like Tongan mindset, like how everyone is in Tonga.
And they're still living in Tonga, and they're still living in Tonga. They're
still living in Tonga, So they're still in Kolomotua. But it's don't be scared to stand up. To stand up for what you believe in. Don't be scared to voice out your opinions. Don't be scared to say no, because at the end of the day, if say for example, say for example, like, because I've had this before where, one of my cousins was the one that always provided for for her family, and she ended up losing her life because she couldn't put up with it anymore, and because she never stood up for it as well. And I was in that position too, where I started thinking suicidal thoughts. Like when my mom disowned me, I started thinking like, I'm such an ungrateful daughter. I was like, I literally just broke my family. I hurt my family. Like, I blamed myself for loving myself. You know, I was like, I never should have put myself first. I should have always just kept the way that I, you know, that I always, you know, that I was brought up and stuff. So like, yeah, I went through like those moments as well. But it got to the point where it was either me ending, like I thought to myself, I sat back and I really thought to myself, there are other people out there. Like if I was gone from this world, you know, yeah, they would sit down, they would be upset, they will cry and all this and that. But then life will move on. My parents will find one of my other siblings to ask for money. You know, if they weren't going to get it from me and they weren't going to get it from me anymore, they would get it from one of my other siblings, because I'm not the only one that lives overseas, you know. So like, yeah, so that's when I thought to myself, like, stop it. Like, stop beating yourself up about it. Like, you can't control every situation. You can't force your family, you know, your parents to understand that it's hard. Like, it's hard having to, you know, to earn for yourself and for them, you know, because they were brought up differently, you know, back in the days. And back in the days, things didn't cost so much, you know. You build your own, you know, you build your own fale, and that's it. It's your fale. You don't have to, you know, pay for electricity or anything like that. Like, that's it. Like, that's how it was back then. Until, you know, until society decided to bring in, you know, the government and having to bring in money into it and all of this and that, you know. And, you know, but yeah, just the biggest thing is like, self-love is way more important than having to please everyone. Because you are right, if you're not happy within yourself, then how are you able to make other people happy if you're not happy and you're not living your life? You need to live your life in order to know, you know, in order to know that you are able to help others in a different way. It doesn't necessarily have to be money all the time, but like, you can please other people in different ways. But the sad truth is, from our Tongan community, is the only way that you can please them is by showing money, flashing money in front of them. That's the only way that you can please them. But that doesn't mean that you have to fall into that category of abiding by that. It's not a law, it's not a rule, it's not a contract that you're binded with. It's just their mindset, and that's just how they were brought up, and that's how they bring you up to do, you know, to think as well. But it doesn't mean that you have to sign your life away to please others. Like, you need to live and you need to survive for yourself. So yeah, so tough, but you know, it's gonna be tough, but don't be scared to like say no.
And thanks for sharing that. But yeah, for all, you know, everybody out there that's watching this, and then, you know, you have that obstacle and you have that challenge of you know, trying to put yourself first. I just want to throw some things at you so they can listen to this. What always helped me was realizing myself that because when I was like, you know, when I was suffering silently, you know, with my own mental health, because I was trying to please everyone, like you said, I just thought to myself, this thought came to my mind. I was like, are you really about to live your life this way? You know, are you really, am I going to live my life, my rest of my life being broken and miserable and unhappy? And for me, I was like, man, life is just too short. I was like, man, I can't live my life. I mean, I just, you know, we're both still young, but like, I was like, man, I'm probably going to live till like 80 and 90. Like, am I going to live another 60, 78? Like, oh my God, I can't do that. I knew physically, mentally, emotionally, I cannot handle doing this another day, and not only let alone another day for my whole life. So everybody out there that's, you know, I want to put that perspective towards you to think about it. Like, you know, no matter how hard it is or whatever, you know, how tough your family is to talk to, but if you're really unhappy right now and you're just suffering, I want to ask you that question is, are you willing to suffer for the rest of your life? And if you can say yes to that question, that's on you. But if you really know you can't do it, then you gotta put yourself first, because life is just too short. Also, what you said perfectly, I love what you said. You can't help anybody else if you don't help yourself. You know, how can you help your family if you can't even help yourself? And that's something that I always think about. That's something I always think about. And because I always ask myself, you know what? You know, what's the point of being a son? What's the point of being a father when I have kids one day if I'm unhappy? know, like, am I gonna bring my future family into this world, and I'm a miserable man, and I'm gonna give them my misery and make their life tougher, which I've seen a lot. I've seen broken people raise their kids to be broken because they're broken. I've seen that a lot in Polynesian families. So, and I also think, and I remember I had one of my mentors, and he gave me this advice. He was like, look, just think about it. I was like, do you love your family? I was like, yeah, I do love my family, even though they're, it'd be challenging sometimes. But at the end of the day, I do still love them. All right, perfect. All right, do you want to support them financially? I was like, yeah, yes. Do you want to support them mentally, emotionally? Do you want to make sure that you provide for them and support your family? I was like, yes. Then he told me, can you support them being broken? And I was like, no. I was like, he was like, so let me ask you, whenever you choose yourself first, don't you feel happy and don't you feel empowered to be better and be a better man? I was like, yeah. So by being a better man and being more successful and being more happy, then you'll be able to attract more resources and success that you can give back to your family. And I was like, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way. So for me, I always think about, okay, even though it can be challenging for myself to choose myself first, but I know for a fact that even though I may be spending spending a lot of time by myself trying to do what I got to do right now for my life and my sex and my dreams, but I do know for a fact that when I make it one day and I make it do really well for myself, I'm definitely gonna go back and take care of my family.
Yeah.
So the more I can have for myself is the more I can give back. But if you don't have anything, then what else can you give? Because so I just want to throw that out there for everybody to listen to and share my own experience. But Tongans, it's tough. It's tough, man. It's it's really, really tough. I don't want to talk about a topic that you mentioned, and I know this is going to be a very sensitive topic to talk about, but please bear with me. And I'm going to ask you this question. I know a lot of things that a lot of Polynesians go through, men and women, but I feel like more women, and I've been noticing a lot more is sexual abuse that happens within the families. I know you talked about it briefly while you were sharing the story about what happened between you and your dad. But and I feel like I have friends that I know that went through it, and especially within the culture where they're speaking up and talking about these is considered taboo. For me, that never made sense to me. Why is something considered taboo if the child is hurting? That never made sense. If something like I don't know who made that up. Like, okay, if like to categorize something, especially if that person's in pain. If you're in pain, especially for a family member, like for me, if I see my own family member struggling, I want them to speak up. I want them to tell me.
Yeah, of course.
Like, why would I disown or discourage them from not speaking? Why would you want your own family member to keep struggling? And I just never understood that mentality. But I guess that's an old traditional, mentality. That from the old ages, from the Stone Ages, that people still carry to today. But that never sit well with that. I never understood that concept. Like, knowing how do you love you related to pain, and you would prefer them not to speak up. Okay, that doesn't make sense. But for me, but I know that's something that happens, and I know you shared that experience with you. What happened to you. But I wanted to ask if you wanted to talk about it, because I know there's a lot of Polynesian and women that's going through it, and they find it hard for themselves to speak about it, and I feel like we should empower them too.
Yeah. So like I said, it was only a couple of years ago when I found out that that had happened to me, and I also found out that the reason why my other sister, who was adopted with me, was also adopted was because of that. So it was my adopted parents that had told me about it, because my sister actually ended up going back to Tonga eventually, and she got married and she's got kids, but I never understood why, growing up, my sister, I never understood why she didn't like it when men touched her or when men were so close to her and I didn't understand why why I was uncomfortable having men around me or anything like that. I didn't understand that either. But I was comfortable, of course, with my granddad. I was comfortable with my brothers. But for some reason I never had I never had a connection with my dad at all. Anyway, my dad only said 2 words to me majority of the time, was just hello when I came back from school, or goodbye. Like, that was it. Like, he wouldn't take me out on like ice cream treats like he would do with my siblings. He would never it was never a like, oh, Maria, come here, like, do you want to hang out or anything? Like, we'll have a fun. I never had a father-daughter bond with my own dad. That's why I was so close to my mom, and my siblings hated the fact that I was close to my mom. But so when I found out that had happened to me, it was hard to believe at first. I turned around and I was like to my parents, no, you guys are lying. Like, you guys are just saying that so I don't go back to my biological parents. Like, that type of thing. Like, you start questioning everything, and you start questioning them, whether or not you trusted them or not, But then they gave me a couple of days to cool off and and think for myself, to think. And in that period, I was thinking maybe they are telling the truth, because then why would I feel uncomfortable around any male around me? Why would I feel like I have to why do I feel like I'm, I have to bring my bubble, smaller, and my guard up so much to trust guys, and yeah, I eventually started investigating. I wanted to know if my biological mom knew about it or anything like that. So I asked my adopted parents. I was like, how did you guys find out? Because I was like, how did you guys find out? And they're like, well, we have a lawyer and solicitor in Tonga who's who we asked to do some investigating and stuff. And they investigated and they found out that, that is exactly what my sister and I had gone through. And they went back to when the Italian woman who I'm named after, it went back to when she was still alive. So, so that explained why my dad would always drop me and my sister off at times to her place, and say that he'll come back around later and all this and that. So that's when it occurred. So my dad, and I'm not one to bring family matters into it or anything like that, but my family, just like majority of other Tongan families, like my Tongan family, it was perfect, but imperfect. So there's, it's, no family is perfect, but my family was a broken family. But my mom did everything in her power, including my grandparents, to make it feel like it was a happy family. They did everything they did in their power to make it a happy and safe environment for myself and for my siblings, but mainly for myself and my sister. So my dad and the Italian woman were in on it. So she knew about it. My dad's sister knew about it as well. When my mom eventually found out what had happened, because one day when my dad had did that to me and my sister again, he felt really I think that's when it started hitting him, how could I keep doing this to my daughters, So he wanted to end it all. He wanted to end his memory of doing that. He wanted to end the fact that my sister and I were proof of him doing that to somebody, even his own kids,
The guilt.
So he went off and he went to his sister and asked his sister and said to his sister, look, admitted it to his sister and said, I want to get rid of the whole situation. What can I do? And his sister just turned around and said, I don't know what to do, but all I can think of is let's try and overdose them with pills. And, because we were young, we were toddlers.
Oh my God.
And Yeah, so it was like, oh, we can try and like make an excuse and like, overdose them with pills and just say that they got into the cabinet or something like that, so yeah, so that's what they tried to do. Of course they didn't succeed, because if they did, myself and my sister wouldn't be here. But my I don't know who came and found us, but yelled out and called the ambulance. Of course, the ambulance would have like taken forever, so put us in the car, drove us, and the doctor contacted my mom. So the doctor that they went to, that's another thing that they made a mistake on, was the fact that they.
No, so they attempted to do it. They
attempted. They attempted to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, they failed. The wrong thing that they did was that they went to our family doctor. So so going to our family doctor, our family doctor has my mom on like speed dial, like just ring my mom straight away if anything happens, especially if it involves me, because back then, like I got sick so easily and stuff. Like I was the only one out of my whole entire family that if I had a fever, it's a bad fever. If I had a cold, it was a bad cold. So like, of course he'd have my mom on speed dial. Rang my mom came, and, and she was questioning like what happened and all this and that. And, my dad's sister was there as well. So my mom had asked the doctor what had happened. And the doctor said, oh, well, apparently they were at, their auntie's house, and, the cousin or whatever found them, with pills all over, and like they must have managed to take a few in or whatever it is. And and my mom turned around and she was like crying, like she was so upset. She was like, in tears. And then it clicked to her. She was like, but my daughters aren't that tall enough to reach the cabinet.
Yeah.
And the pills are in the cabinet, like high up. Like nobody's allowed to touch that cabinet unless it was my auntie or somebody else. So my mom started questioning my auntie, and then my auntie eventually, like my dad's side of the family hates my mom. They hate my mom so much. But yeah, so like my auntie eventually gave in and told her the story. My mom, fuming as she was, went up to the Italian woman, questioned her and everything. And like, again, the story came out, asked my dad admitted to it. My mom, growing up, I thought, like, when I found out about it, and I found out that, like, because I rang my mom and I asked her about it, and my mom told me everything. And at first I was angry at my mom because she never told my sister and I. And she turned around and she said, the reason why I never told you was because I didn't do that. And I didn't know about it until I almost lost you. She said, it was your dad's mistake. It's your auntie's mistake. It's that they are the ones that have to come to you and admit it to you. She's like, because at the end of the day, me telling you now, you could go and question your dad, and your dad could turn around and point blank lie to you, And I said, okay. I sat down and I was like, okay, I understand that. And then I said to her, but why would you let that man be around us?
Yeah.
Like, why would you still be with him, and allow that dangerous man to be around me and my sister? What if he could have done it to my baby sister? What if he decided to like experiment on my brothers? Like, you don't understand. I said to her, like, the fact that you're like, I turned around and I was like, he's a criminal in my eyes. I turned around and I was like, the fact that you're allowing a criminal to go, to allow him to be in my safe environment, like, and to continue to be there, like, it's not right, But I ended up being the one telling my sister, and my sister and my dad, they're so close, like they're really close.
Yeah.
So the moment that I told her, she turned around and she was going to beat the heck out of me. Like she was gonna beat my ass up, because she didn't want to hear anything bad about my dad or anything like that. And I literally sat there. I was like on my knees. I was begging her to like listen to me and understand that I wasn't lying and that I would never lie to her, But up until this day, she doesn't believe me. We haven't spoken in years, like literally in years. We haven't spoken. I think even when I went to my granddad's funeral, didn't speak to me at all. The only time she ever messaged me, she messaged me a couple of last year, towards the end of last year, not for a Merry Christmas or anything, but for a I'm pregnant, and she's like, but I need clothes and milk for my child when he's born. And I'm like, again, calling me, messaging me for what, for what they want. But no, when I went through, going through that and stuff, like it took a big toll on my life as well. Like that's when I started, I couldn't trust a male, like especially after finding that out. Like the only man that I could trust was my dad that adopted me, and my granddad who's passed away and stuff. And I started questioning every single male in my family. I started questioning, like, if my dad was able to do that, what about my uncles? And I was like, but I also trusted my brother enough to like know that he would never do anything like that. Because the moment that I told my brother about it, my brother wanted to murder my dad. Like he wanted to murder my dad. He didn't care. But it was really tough.
Did your mom ever? Did your mom ever reply? Explain to you why she kept being with him? Did she ever say?
She ended up saying that, because I did ask her, like, I said to her, because when I found that, because I found out, like, also back in 2018 at my granddad's funeral, I found out that my mom was filing for divorce for my dad. Okay. And I had asked her, to her, why did you stay? Like, why did you choose to live with him and be with him all this time? And she turned around and she said, because I never wanted I never wanted any of my kids to grow up not knowing their dad or ever learning the love from a father. So like she only stayed with him because she wanted my younger siblings. Because when I left Tonga, my youngest brother was only 3 months old. So I didn't meet him until he was, I think, 3 years old, 3 or 4 years old. So like, and on top of that, my mom was like I said, I don't want, she didn't want any of her kids, younger kids, to grow up not knowing their dad, or to ever grow up hating their dad and wondering, like, why is mom and dad not together? She wanted to do it at an age, at the stage where my siblings were old enough for my mom, to sit down and say, look, in life, when you get married, there are hardships, and sometimes those hardships and the obstacles that you go through, you can't fix. So it's better to let go than to hold on to something that, that doesn't make you happy, or to hold on to something that's broken and that's not fixable, because when you break a glass, like, you can eventually you can eventually fix the glass, but it'll never be the same, but my mom had to fake it, like literally fake, her happiness, to make sure that my younger siblings got the same, got the same love that we got from our parents being together. So it was tough, like really, really tough. And when I say my family is broken, it's like broken, but people always saw our family as like the perfect family, the family that was always happy, the family that was always together. But now and then, I guess you gotta like fake certain things, but truth will eventually come out and stuff. But yeah, so that's what I went through with all of that. And like, the message that I got, because when I told my my friends here, the girls that are here who are Polynesian, and majority of them are like, they're half Tongans as well, I know one of my girls had turned around, and she, when I opened up to her about it, she turned around and she was crying to me. She was like, I have never heard another Tongan, let alone a Polynesian, but mainly a Tongan, speak out on a subject that's so, that's so taboo. And I was like, well, at the end of the day, it's like, it's a crime. It's a crime to sexually assault. It's a crime to rape. It's a crime. It's a crime within itself. People think that crimes are just, going out there and like murdering people, but there's different types of crimes out there. And I said to her, and if people won't get held accountable for it, then like all we're doing is like, is approving the fact. Yeah, exactly. Allowing the fact that this is, it's like we're giving consent to people to go out there and do it, and she turned around and she stood up to her family. Like she ended up having to, and it's sad to say as well, like when you just speak up about it and you stand up for it, you do end up losing family, if anything, you will lose family or you won't. Like, it depends on what type, on your family.
Yeah.
If they believe in your belief, like if they believe that it is wrong, then they will stand up for what's right. But if they believe that, they have to stick to what the Tongan cultural is back then, like you just have to sweep everything under the rug, then they will do that. And they would rather, and it's sad to say as well, there are families out there who would rather let go of their family and lose their family member than having to stick up for them and having to help them and support them in what they're going through, with the struggles that they're going through with sexual assault and stuff. And it's sad to say that it's within our community and within Polynesia itself that this subject, like when women speak about it, it's like, okay, well, that's done, like whatever.
Yeah, they're shamed.
Yeah, exactly. And we're shamed for it. And that's when the question starts happening with like, oh, like what did you wear, what did you and all this and that. And there was one of my other girls who just recently went through it as well. Like, she had gone out to a party and she was wearing fully covered clothes, like trackies, like long length stuff. And if she's like, I know she will be watching this, and I'm just like, Sila, I love you, and I need you to know that, like, it's okay to speak out, and we're here to support you as well. And she's residing in Brisbane, and she's going through this. People are attacking her, saying like, oh, well, because she got point blank drunk, like really, really drunk, and she entrusted a friend of hers to, like, look after her and to protect her. But he turned around and did that to her and abused her. But thought that it was like, she consented it. But you can't consent anything when you're drunk, and she and when she put up her story, when she voiced it, the amount, and she's full Tongan, like, and the amount of like abuse that she was getting was like, people were like messaging her, like saying to, like, bringing her family into it, like saying that, it's better if she, died and all this and that, and like she should take her family with her. Like, it's really sad, upsetting things, and she was crying on social media. Like, I always tell people, like, you do not have to like prove yourself, or like you don't have to explain yourself to small-minded people who don't understand that this is an everyday basis for Polynesian girls, for like Tongan women. We go through things and people are so quick to judge us. Like, they turn around and they said to her, yeah, but that's what happens when you go out and you get drunk, and then they turn around and they're like, well, you must have dressed up like a slut, that's probably why you were easy to get. Again, we're being shamed for being Tongan women, for being women in general. Being a Tongan, it was really tough. So like, watching up until now, she's still going through it, and I'm just constantly like telling her, like, you do not need to explain yourself to these types of people, because these people they won't listen, and they won't change their mind. Like, it's an everyday thing that we all go through, and it's sad and it's upsetting, especially nowadays, when like, in the nowadays generation, like, we still go through it. But you would expect that they would learn from older days, from what we've gone through. You would think that they would learn and like stand up for it, but instead they're standing against it. And they're just like, they're blaming the victim for voicing it out, but supporting the perpetrator, like supporting the person that did it. And it's like, it's so wrong. And it's just, it's sad. It's really, really upsetting. But like, that was my, my story of it all, of going through it and stuff. And I do hope that, for those of you that have gone through it, for those Tongan women out there who have gone through it or are going through it, and you feel like nobody's listening, and you feel like nobody's out there and there's no one there to support you, like, my Instagram is on, it's on public, it's not on private. If you want anybody to talk to, like, reach out to myself, reach out to any of these people that that has been on this podcast and stuff. Like, reach out to everyone. Like, if it's not gonna help if you just bottle it all up, because at the end of the day, you're just killing yourself, you're eating yourself up, and it's not healthy. And the last thing that I want the youth nowadays to go through is having to turn to suicide to end these problems, when in fact there are people out there who will help you. Like, we will help you, and we will make sure that it's being voiced out. We will make sure that we can't, I can't promise that the person that did it to you will be behind bars, but I can promise you that we will stand against it, and we will help you. It's helping each other. Like, we will help you survive and go through, we'll help you through the whole entire process and stuff. Like, just speak up. Don't be scared to be shamed. You will be shamed whether or not, on a daily basis. You will be shamed for just sitting there and just looking, taking a photo, or just talking, or or just even opening your mouth, or even breathing. You will be shamed for everything. But yeah, speak out. Like, just honestly, just speak out. And I'm, like I said, my DM is open for you guys to message me or anybody else, in fact, for any advice or for help and stuff. But yeah.
And I just want to go off what you said. For anybody out there that that's going through it, I'm willing to listen as well. Like I said, if you want to reach out, my podcast and my social media is pretty open, and I'm always willing to take the time, because I know for a lot of people, I don't want you to feel alone. I want them to know that there are a lot of people like you, like me, and a lot of people out there that will support you and will, and you can find comfort in us, and so that way you don't feel alone, and feel like that nobody cares, because I feel like that's what's one of the hardest things of speaking up, and you find yourself by yourself all alone, and you feel like the world don't care, you don't have no value, or you're insignificant. And then especially you start hearing all these nasty things that people say to make to make you feel like that you don't deserve to be here. I just want to let you know, much love to you, and we're always here for, if you need support, need help, go get it. But if you need somebody, reach out to Maria, and then reach out to me, and reach out to good people. But I just want to say, Maria, thank you for sharing that story. I know it's a hard thing to share, and I know it's I'm just, for me, I have so much, man, like, I want to hug you right now. I just want to give you a big hug, because like, I'm just thinking, I never been in those situations, but the whole time you were talking, I was just thinking about my sisters, my nieces. I'm just thinking about the people I love. I was like, man, like, what if this is happening to them? Like, I don't, if I find out something that's happening to my own family, like, the next podcast I'll be doing is in jail. But what's up, y'all? I'm in my cell. Don't worry, my roommate in the back.
Over here going like, we will free you, don't worry.
I know he's wearing an orange jumpsuit, but we're
like,
here.
It's all right, guys. It's the new fashion nowadays.
But the podcast continues. It still continues.
It continues.
But yeah, that's the feeling of I felt the whole time you were talking, and that's why I really wanted to mention this, because it's funny that it's just crazy. Like, it baffles me, like, to see our own people shaming and victim blaming and criticizing women to come out, and what's crazy, if a child comes out and talks about sexual abuse, you think, like, why would a child lie? I always want to, like, analyze people's mentality. Like, if a child comes out, that a child doesn't just wake up and want to speak bad about their parents or their loved ones. And like, I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying it's always perfect, but I'm just saying if a child comes out of your family and talks about sexual abuse, 100% of the time it's true, because a child is not they're not developed enough to even make up stuff that serious, or and I just want to put out there for everybody. But it's so sad to me to see our culture victimized and ashamed. I had a good friend that was on this podcast. I don't know if you knew her, but her name was Nini Youngie. She talked about her rape story on my podcast, and then I know it was on Facebook, and oh my God, I was just like reading the comments of all these people just like victimizing and blaming her, and the same thing they said, sayapito, that's what happens for girls, like, you know, that leave the house. You know, you deserve, like you deserve to get raped because you left the house. You know, or you went to a party. If you went to a party, you deserve to get raped. Like comments like those, like I'm just like, oh my God, like the lack of empathy and understanding. And I know for a lot of people it can be hard. And I also understand. I know I try to understand them from their side, because I know it can be hard for a family member to grow up with a certain family member you're very close with, and then all of a sudden you find out that he's like, somebody says that he's a rapist. I know it's hard, because especially if you knew that person extremely well, and now somebody tells you they're a rapist. I know that can be hard to believe that person, your family member can be a rapist and do that to somebody. I know that's very hard for people, but I always tell people, like, we should always be understanding when people come out, because you never know until it happens to you. Like you never like until like when I see all these people criticizing and judging, like, look, until it happens, there's no one can say anything until it happens to you. So you can understand what that really, really feels like. Because I see all these women saying, this is what happens when you do this and this. Why did she wait this long? I saw one comment. Because for Nini, she waited over a year before she came out, and I saw all these women are like, oh, why did she wait this long? Or, why do all this? I was like how can you tell somebody to deal with their trauma? Like everybody, when it comes to trauma and things like that, you can't tell somebody how to deal with it. We all deal with it differently, and there's so many dynamics. And for me, it was just the lack of understanding in people and the empathy.
Yeah.
And what I saw a lot was like a lot of the comments and victim blaming and shame came from women too, which was I was like, if the men did it, all right, because men, sometimes we're stupid, we don't understand things, but I saw it from the own women, like from the own women, like discouraging and shaming other women, which is crazy. Like to think that, and I thought that women would be more empathetic towards other women because you're women,
exactly,
you can relate. But it was most 95% of the comments came from women, right? So it was just sad to see. So I just but just for the share with everybody out there that, hey, if you're going through it, please speak up, because like you said, if you bottle it up and try to hide it, it's just gonna eat you alive. Eat you alive, and you end up hurting yourself, and I don't want that to happen. So but yeah, thank you for talking about that. Really appreciate that. But I do want to transition topics and go to the next topic. I do want to talk about your career, especially your modeling. I feel like that's something that's very positive and very empowering for other women. I know we just kind of went through a very dark stage of women, and then it's go to a positive one. So can you talk about your modeling career? Can you talk about what inspired you to do it? How has it helped you in your own life? Because I can only imagine putting yourself out there, especially with modeling. You probably received a lot of backlash from a lot of people from being a model. But I feel like, but me personally, based on the women I know a lot of women suffer with body image issues, self-esteem with their own body. Because I know Polynesians, most of them, we are built different. Tongan women, we're built different. So we're a little more bigger than the average person. But that's just who we are. So we gotta love that. But I know a lot of women and men too. We suffer with body image issues, self-esteem. So it's always good to see. For me, I love to see Polynesian women going into the modeling career and putting themselves out there, because I feel like a lot of our people need that, especially women, so they can feel to see somebody like look just like them being a model that can empower them to feel good about being themselves and their own body. But yeah, can you talk about your modeling journey and what inspired you, what you went through, and everything?
So modeling was never something that I thought of doing or was ever interested in. Like I said, I was a tomboy, so I didn't know how to be a girly girl or anything like that. Not that modeling is like all about girliness. I mean, nowadays it's like, you have streetwear for like girls who are like, want to be tomboys or, or this and that. But it was back when I moved, when my family and when my adopted parents adopted me and we moved in 2010 to New Zealand, we went shopping at a mall, Richmond Mall in Nelson, and my mom turned around and she was like, my adopted mom turned around and she was like, oh, there's a modeling competition. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. Like just brushing it off. I was like, cool story. Like, yeah. And she was like, why don't you girls do it? And I'm like, me in a dress with heels on a runway? Yeah, no. I was like, no, that's not me. And my mom's like, please, like just do it. You never know. It could lead to something. And I was like, fine, I'll do it. We did it. I think my sister and I won the category group that we were at. So we won. Gave us opportunities to to do more modeling with other stuff, with other companies and stuff. And my sister went on board with like doing the photo shoots, but mind you, we weren't under an agency or anything like that. After that runway, there was another runway that I did, and I got asked by a couple of agencies to meet up with them and like see if I wanted to join their agency. And I was like, like I said, I wasn't really interested in it. I just did it for the fun and for the fact that my mom asked me to do it. So I was like, okay, it'll be fun. Let me do it. But along the track, like after speaking to them, I realized that the only reason why they wanted me in it was because I had the perfect body. Like I had the shape, I was skinny, I had long, I'm this tall girl, with long black hair, it fitted their image that they were going for, and I didn't want to be portrayed as the person that like, I didn't know, like, I knew the fact that like, you had to stay a certain body shape or body type in order to do, to be in an agency and stuff like that. And I knew that like that would have been a lot of pressure. So I never signed up to any agencies. Later on down the track, like I think I did that for like 3-4 years or 2 to 3 years. And then I stopped. And when I moved here, my parents were like, sign up to agencies there. Like you will get, you will be well known. You can kick off your career, your modeling career there. And I'm like, again, I don't want to do modeling. I've always wanted to be a flight attendant. I've always wanted to do other things. Like I want to be a fashion designer. I want to create, my own clothing line one day and stuff. Like that was me. And when I came here, like I said, I never, did the modeling or anything like that. I stopped it all until 2018 when I did the pageant, my first ever beauty pageant. That came with more, opportunities of having to do photo shoots and stuff. And again, every single person that I met here and I've done photo shoots for and stuff, they always turn around. They're like, aren't you signed up to an agency yet? And I'm like, no. And they're like, sign up to an agency because you're natural. Like you're natural with everything. It's like once the camera comes out, like we don't have to tell you like what to do. It's like the camera comes out and you're ready. Like your body, your face, it's just ready, And so I was like, oh, let me just do this beauty pageant first and see how it goes. The beauty pageant was the one that made me learn how to love myself more, my body. Even though I had like, because the way that Tongan women are built is different. It's like you're curvy, you're naturally curvy. There are some of them that are like big built, but still like have that perfect body shape and stuff. And then there are those ones that have the same curvy body shape, but have like the flat tummy and all this and that, like that type. And I'm the type that's like, the body shape, but like I can never put a belly on. Like my belly just stays flat, but I do have like, what they call the baby muffins and like, and that. But like, I never liked myself. I didn't love myself at all. Like not at all. I started looking, like I went off what social media put up, saying like, perfection is this, you know, the Victoria's Secret models, like, you know, Vogue models, and, you know, all of this and that. Like, I went off that, like TV actresses, that's what I went off. I was like, those are perfect, you know, that's what, you know, every single woman in the world should look like and stuff. So being a model, when I started doing like other photo shoots, up until now, I'm still not with an agency, but oh,
okay.
I'm so sorry. Somebody just tried calling me, and I'm like, excuse me. So I started doing, I don't know if you guys know, but there's this oil, natural Tongan oil brand here in Australia that launched officially last year called Fenil. So Fenil is a Tongan brand, and it's fully Tongan, like all products and stuff are Tongan. And at the moment, we've only got the cream and the Tongan oil, but the owner she's expanding it into, you know, into something bigger. And you know, it's gone viral to the fact where, like, you know, we're on Vogue China, you know, other big businesses, like online businesses, are wanting to, you know, to collaborate and stuff with us. You know, the Tongan, you know, the Tongan royal family wants to have the store in Tonga at the airport. So it's blown up like massively. And and Mele, if you're watching this, shout out to Finu. And so I did modeling with her and stuff. So that's when, because I met her through the pageant, and then, you know, she started bringing me on board for photo shoots for her brand and all, and things like that. And it blew up. Like, I got noticed by, you know, by other photographers. I got noticed by, you know, modeling agencies, and they've constantly, up until now, still emailing me, like messaging me saying, hey, you know, can you please come on board? Can you, you know, do you want to collaborate and all this and that? And I'm just like, I don't know. Because like, you know, I'm just, you know, I really don't know where I'm at right now. But with the modeling and stuff, it's helped me love myself. It's helped me love my body. You know, I've gotten more comfortable wearing different types of clothing that I would never wear and stuff. And in order for me to like make myself more confident and more confident and more comfortable in my body, was the fact that, you know, I gave myself that, you know, I thought about, like, Maria, you don't know, you know, people will look at me and say, you look good in this, you look good in that. But I wouldn't know unless I tried it. You know, if you don't try anything, then you wouldn't know.
Never know.
Like, you know, you won't get the answer unless you do, you know, you do what you have to do to get the answer. You can't just sit there and question yourself, like, do I really look good in it? Or
what if?
Would I? Yeah, you can't just stand with what if. You have to do it, you know. It's like the Nike thing. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it, guys. Just do it.
Nike, watching this, hey.
If you're watching this, hey, just do it. Modeling really took me out of my comfort zone. It really taught me that, you know, that even though I'm a Tongan woman and I will be portrayed as, again, like, you know, being named and stuff, and like being shamed, I was shamed a lot. Not literally from like the moment I stepped onto the spotlight with the pageant, with the beauty pageant, I had my supporters and stuff, but I had like a lot of backlash. I had a lot of like women, even like older women, like my mom's age, or even my like grandma's age, commenting saying like, she's not Tongan, like, you know, she's like, you know, or, you know, and this and that. Like, I was being criticized by, yes, again, it was just, majority of them were just women, like 99, I would say 99% of the people commenting were women of my own culture, like of my own descent, like my own background, you know, just, you know, belittling me and like, you know, saying that like, you know, look at this person, like going around there parading her body, like, you know, she has no dignity or no pride in herself. And I'm here going like, I do have dignity in myself, but if I didn't do this, then like I wouldn't have pride in my country. Like, I'm doing this for my country's pride, you know, for my country. Like, yes, I'm going out of my comfort zone. I'm doing things that Tongans wouldn't really do, like wearing bikinis, for a photo shoot, or bikini for like, for walking down the runway where people can see me. Like, yes, I know that my brothers would probably see it, but I know that my family, that if my family saw it, like my siblings would see it, they'd be like, no one's allowed to see this. Like, none of the boys can see this. They'd be like, they'd shut my brothers out of it. I know that like there is that, that respect in the Tongan community and in the Tongan culture, that if they see a Tongan woman, like, going out there and doing all of this and that, because like, they would be like shamed and stuff. But I know that our families would be respectful enough to, to close that off from our brothers, from our Tongan male families, and I'm pretty sure, like, I won't sit here and say that, like, no Tongan woman out there will not go through it. We will go through it. Like, you will eventually go through it. It's a nature. I don't know why, but it's just in our nature, in our Tongan nature, for our women to belittle us and degrade us from who we are. And it's sad to say, but I wouldn't be surprised if Veronica went through it, if Dinah Jane went through it, if Diamond Langi and all these other Tongan, Tongan famous people, like celebrities out there, like I wouldn't be surprised if they went through it as well, because that's the thing, like that's what you have to pay for being in the spotlight. You have to put up with so much hate. You have to put up with so much negativity being thrown at you, not just by by other cultures, but majority of it is from your
always
own,
come from culture.
from your own, exactly, from your own culture. And that's the sad part, because you would expect your country to
be the
like
biggest
turn
supporter.
around and support you. Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, like, they will support our Tongan men, like in rugby, and
Or even
and
modeling.
brush aside the fact, yeah, or even modeling, yeah, and brush aside the fact that like they're going out there, like say if they're wearing speedos, they're going out there and they're literally like showing exactly what we would be showing. But like, but it's okay for them to do it. But for us Tongan women, it's wrong. It's like, no, like that's not how you were brought up. That's not how you were taught. Like there will be women out there who are like, you were never brought up right. Your family didn't teach you right. Your parents, brought you up wrong. Like they will go to the lengths of like bringing your family into it when it's just about you. Yeah. So like, as a Tongan, like I said, as a Tongan model, Tongan woman model, you will go through a lot of backlash, and it's just from you. Majority of it is just from your own culture. And if you do, if for those women, girls out there, even younger ones, if they're watching, if you're going, if you're growing up and you want to be a model, you want to be, you want to represent your country in something that's so out of the expectation of a Tongan woman, don't be afraid to go through with it. Like, yes, you will go through like, all the backlash and the negativity. But at the end of the day, you're doing this. You need to remember you're doing this for yourself. If it's something that you've always dreamed of doing and it's something that you've always wanted to do in life, then pursue it. Don't let, the negativity and, the mindset of other people stop you from achieving what you want to do. You're doing this for yourself. Always remember to do everything that you do it for yourself, not for others, but for yourself. Because at the end of the day, you're the only one that's really supporting yourself 100%. Yeah, there will be other people who will support you here and there, but at the end of the day, you're the last man standing for yourself. So just do it.
We'll spit that. You're spitting that vela, that fire, baby. I'm taking notes. I'm taking all the notes right here. I'm taking all the notes, everything.
I mean, you're going like, how many pages have you got?
I got like 2 pages right now.
Oh my God. I'm like, I'm giving out all my secrets here, guys.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'll definitely make sure. I'll definitely make sure you give me credit. But you spitting that fire right now, so I got a lot of good notes. But yeah, I think for everybody out there that's listening, especially for Polynesian women, like, just be yourself and do you. And also everybody out there, men and women, we're all beautiful in our own way. And one quote I just want to share is like, I think one of my favorite quotes about beauty. It's it's what makes us different is what makes us beautiful. It's our, because if everybody was the same, we wouldn't tell what looks good or not. It's our differences, right? It's the differences that we have is what makes us shine, and it's what makes us beautiful, and it's just the light that God gives us. So embrace it, be it, and don't apologize for your differences. That's what.
Left.